Okay, we're ready.
3, 2, 1.
3, 2, 1.
Off you go.
Welcome back. I don't know, at this rate, it's probably your 5th episode this week. Thanks, Julian.
Yes, you're welcome. I stopped messaging you at 7 in the morning, so you can't say anything.
I know. You're doing pretty good.
Yeah, I got all my energy on them first at the coffee
Yes.
shop before I went to you, so there you go.
So, today,
Actually, Wim got it first.
yes.
Yeah.
So today we got some special guests
Yep.
coming from afar, I guess.
Across the pond.
I'd actually always do this before I have anyone on the podcast, as I always have to ask how to pronounce their names so I don't fuck it up.
Yeah, this time you're fine.
Instead, I'm just going to hand it over to you. Please, at least tell us your names, where you're from.
Why don't you start?
Karianne, which is kind of an interesting thing, like Kyla, Kayla. Nobody ever gets it right. Karianne, and from New Jersey, Bernardsville, New Jersey.
Also, I said Karianne every time, so
That's
I
what I
fucked
said.
it up
Yeah,
every
I
single
say
time.
I stay out like I read
But now
it.
people will tell me they're saying it wrong. I'm like, it's okay. It's like now we're too far along.
Hey,
for
you
me
all
to
call me
correct
Julian,
it.
so we're good at this stage.
When I first learned, so I'm Bill, my lovely wife Karianne. When I first was learning her name and everything like that was way too much. So it was just K.
Yeah.
Which
yeah,
really
yeah.
pissed my dad off. He's like, why the fuck does he call you K?
And he's like, well, if I was you, I'd be like, well, it's kind of your fault for making the
Yeah,
real
exactly,
thing pretty
yeah.
complicated.
Remember
Yeah,
that.
why don't you tell me?
Well, I'll tell you this: at least I do like your approach of where if somebody does mispronounce your name, they're still pronouncing it probably the way it's spelled.
Right.
So like you can't be
You can't
like,
blame
dude,
them.
what the fuck is your problem? You know, because there's nothing worse. It's like, okay, you can't have your name be pronounced uniquely from the spelling, and then get mad at me. You can have it pronounced differently, but don't. I'm just reading here, you know.
Yeah, the way I name my daughter, I kind of get the point.
Yeah.
But yes, I kind of made it hard for everybody. But yeah,
So, well, let's get into your guys' background.
yes. Why are you here?
Yeah, you are here because you're doing some stuff with us moving forward with the kind of affiliate that's not an affiliation program thing that we
Exactly.
have not named yet.
The
And I refuse to let that be the name. I can't.
It's a good name.
Julian
Just
keeps
keep
digging.
saying that
Using
it's
the
not.
anagram-
It's the name, and just keep saying that's not the name.
Yeah,
But that's perfect. That's a name. That's not a name.
I know.
That's so StrongFit.
I know.
I'll get there.
But,
Yeah.
but then he wants. I don't understand why it's just we're not selling. Or like, well, you put something on Instagram about it, and I'm like, what? The most unbrandable wording.
We are
thing
selling
you've
it to
ever-
the right people.
That's
There's a difference. Yes.
So, but you guys are here. We'll be doing a lot of stuff in the future in that project and trying to help affiliates and all those other things. So, you want to tell us why you ended up here
Yes.
to do that project and where you guys come from, your background, and all that.
Yeah. So I opened a CrossFit gym in 2008 in New Jersey. So kind of early on in the CrossFit time, people didn't know there were other CrossFit gyms. They were like, oh, there's others of these? It's like, yeah.
There's more than one.
Prior to that, I had been in the fitness industry and I had started running like a boot camp for women. Went to a CrossFit level 1 just to do some continuing education. Of course, had the same story of like doing it in a Globo gym thinking, I don't get this. This is dumb. And
By the way, how did you learn about CrossFit? I'm curious.
yeah, a friend of mine who was a state trooper who I worked with was like, oh, you should try this. And so I was trying it, but I remember it was like 3 bars of death. What's the Linda. And I'm like, this is dumb. Like nobody can even do this. Like this is ridiculous. Like I didn't get it. But I'm like, I'll go. I want to learn what this is about, and was just totally blown away by like it was definitely different than anything in the fitness industry I'd learned so far. Immediately went home, was like, I'm doing this, I'm opening a gym. Had no business, like my accountant
Who were
was-
your instructors at the other one?
So it was this guy, Rob Miller, who doesn't work on staff anymore. Andy Stumpf was there, Maggie Tincher, Pat Sherwood.
Oh, you got all the
Wolf was
you got
there.
the OGs.
There was like the OGs.
Rob
and,
Wolf was there. Jesus, that was
yeah.
pre-Black Box.
Rob did the nutrition thing. I lied actually about being able to do pull-ups because they separated you like you have a pull-up or you don't have a pull-up, like kipping pull-ups. I'm like, I don't, but I don't want to be stuck in that group. I'm like, I'll figure it out, you know. And then there you go. So
This is
Tony
where-
Budding was there filming. I think it was in Baltimore. I remember Pat Sherwood holding up this little red bucket. He's like, this is for if you have to puke. And I'm like, I don't understand what's happening here. And then we did Fight Gone Bad, and I was like, okay, I've definitely not been doing this.
Whatever this is.
Yeah,
I
whatever
haven't
this
been
is,
doing what
yeah.
this is.
So, but fast forward, I started implementing it with these women, and it was really the first time something was like visibly working. Like, okay, this is actually like there's progress happening. And that's when I decided, I'm going to go ahead and open a facility.
So you did it at the gym?
So I did it in the boot
at the
camp.
park?
I bought some barbells from Rutgers for like $10 a piece. Actually, we still have a couple of those. I put them in the back between my kids and just hope they didn't like roll on top of one of them.
And then you go to the park and make them do it.
Oh, it's
take
it
old
out of
school.
Take it out of
I like it.
And these women, what's funny is some of them are still members, and they were like the housewives doing barbell stuff. Like so now, some of the like cool athlete guys that come in, I'm like, this woman next to you's been doing CrossFit like forever,
11
and
years.
you're like brand new. So that was in 2008, 2009, and I kind of just like threw myself into the community. So I did go to the Black Box Summit. I was trying to just learn as much as possible. From that,
are we talking about that one?
We're not talking about that.
Yeah, exactly.
But anyway, I did intern and then made it onto the level 1 staff and did that. From there, I started working for HQ in a number of different roles. I've kind of seen it all. The fundraising when we had like the Hope. I don't know if you guys remember the
cancer stuff.
Hope, yeah.
I remember that.
So there was like
and that picture, the poster.
I had the job of calling affiliates after that poster went out, apologizing for the poster.
I didn't get your phone
I
call.
just got
Hold
a
on,
list.
if
You
you-
were on my list.
Now-
You were on my
yeah,
list.
okay.
We
Now,
Now,
broke
if
it
you
up.
haven't heard of this incident,
Oh my God, that was so good.
there was a kids cancer fundraiser thing, right?
Yeah, it was for St.
Jude.
Jude's.
Yeah.
St. Jude's.
So then I believe the poster was like was it like a sexy nurse?
It was a
No,
sexy
well,
nurse with
there
dragging
was- so
sexy
the-
zombie
so the
nurse or
St.
something. She was
Jude-
sexy, I'm sorry.
The nurse was sexy. I don't remember the sexy nurse. The wagon. So at St. Jude's, all the kids get like a red wagon.
Yeah.
That's their to
There
pull
was
their
dying
stuff around.
kids in the
There were
wagon.
kids with like X'd out
Like-
eyes. And
but looking weird, like they were
sick. They were sick, dying children. Which was not a lot of people. It just was.
Do you know that's how Armen got in trouble?
Why was that?
Armen from the Wildcat podcast, the naked CrossFitter.
Yeah.
Oh, he railed
For that,
on CrossFit
yeah.
and Glassman on that one.
Yeah.
And the post went up, and I think I can't remember. Maybe even Glassman himself. Maybe not him, but somebody else started to. Like that went up in flame,
that
and that's
was,
how Armen got in trouble. Was out of that one.
Yeah. So that was one of my jobs to call people but I got to talk to a lot of affiliates personally and then they got my number and for like 3 years later they text and be like, hey, I have a question about something, and I'm like, okay, that's fine. Then I ended up.
So you know everybody. Is
So
what
I
you're
know
saying.
there's
Yeah.
a lot of affiliates that started with an awkward conversation but ended up in a good
You know
place.
that post? How did you justify that one?
Well, it wasn't really my job to justify.
Oh, you just
It was
apologized
just
full
an
blown?
apology. Yeah.
Oh, full blown
It was actually an
apologize.
apology?
It was like,
No
it,
We could have done better.
yeah. I'm not sure the words. I don't think we had
Finally!
I don't
think
think
there
we were
was-
told like
mea
what to
culpa.
say. It was just like, make this better.
I think there was also
was
even
that?
a rare
I like
public
how
apology
they threw them
statement
to the
made
wolves
with
too,
that
and it's
as
like,
well, which was
there's the worst
Yeah.
poster ever. You go
Right,
fix
go
it.
fix it. Okay. But what is funny about that is the connection calling affiliates was actually really cool. So the poster aside, like calling people, and I can't remember, that was something I did after the poster incident. And it was really great. Like people were like, wow, you're just calling that was a time where there were some people
Yeah.
in place to call and just check in.
Yeah.
And people were just like, oh my God, like that's awesome. Like, yeah, everything's good. Or can I help you with anything?
How many affiliates back then? 11 years ago? Like what?
10,000?
Already?
No.
No.
Maybe 8,000? That was like 2011, 10.
I can't remember when it was. But
But that was, and I did, and then eventually I did work for Dave and Nicole. So did some.
Wait. You wait for Dave Castro?
I did work for Dave. So some of it was very much just,
What were you doing? Oh, come on, people need to know. That's the first thing they're all going to ask. So, Corn Boy, how is he? Yeah, Corn Rose Boy.
Some of it did entail getting his hair appointments lined up. Some of it was like administrative work for the seminars and things like that for the courses. But for the games, I think it was the first year, I guess, at what was it, StubHub at that time, but Home Depot Center. And he had like a team.
Or the other way around.
What did it start with? It started Home Depot and now it's StubHub.
It started Home Depot, yeah.
I think we were still calling
Home
it.
Depot
Finally, the
Center.
last
Okay,
year, I had it right, and then we left.
Then we
And
did,
were like,
exactly.
okay. But he had like a team of people, and I somehow made my way onto that team, and then eventually became his. We call them whisperers. So the Dave Whisperer.
Dave Castro Whisperer.
Yeah.
That will
The
go on your
official
grave
title.
right there. Yeah, that's a cool name. Yeah.
And I guess it's called a whisper because it's a very delicate, job. But there are a lot of. It is really incredible to see behind the scenes of everything that's going on.
I can imagine.
And Dave is like, he'll walk the vendor village and say hi and shake let's do that. Let's check in with this. Like, wants to see the athletes. There's nothing going on at the games that he's not aware of. Mm-hmm. So you can imagine that anything else, like if he had to call, or there might be something we're going back and forth with Rogue to try to problem solve. Like call him, call that, you have to just know,
Everybody.
One of the things, is you have to be ingrained in the community to know all the judges, get this person, get that person, and not be a total bitch in the process and find that line. And, so there's a lot of, it's really being his assistant, but there's,
troubleshooting continuously.
Yeah, and just trying to keep everything moving and also not be a total, I learned sort of my first year not to appear stressed, although it was very stressful because that doesn't help the person that's trying to remain calm. Yeah. So I learned to sort of, go in the bathroom and close the door and scream and cry and then come back and I'm ready.
The size of the operation, though, from the back end.
Yeah, and it is really impressive. And, especially in the last couple of years, I will say, Dave, when we walk out into the crowds, never... always has time, even if there's some catastrophe happening, and he understands that people don't know what's going on. So they're like, "Hey, Dave, can you get a picture?" And he's always like, "Yep, great, let's do it." That I think is a tough thing to manage too. Mm-hmm. Sometimes it's taking pictures and doing that.
So it's far friendlier than we understood. There you go.
But I laugh because it's like trying to explain the job description. If someone were to here, you're going to be that job. Yeah.
Well, you're going to do everything.
How do you write that?
You're going to do everything.
Yeah.
It's pretty much
the job description. And just no to be here, no to be there. No, don't do that. That body language, that's not good. You kind of just, I've known Dave for a long time, and there's some of that you can't, it's a relationship. Yeah. So you can't quite explain that to somebody. So that's working.
So he's going to be lost at the next game, or are you going to fly there?
We'll
there you go. It's a year by year thing.
Yeah, it is very much year by year. And so, but some of the girls who have done it in the past, it's, we have a team so that people can also kind of unleash on each other and be like, what the fuck? Yeah. But definitely, I'm very fortunate to have experienced the games in that way. Yeah. For sure.
The back end of this, I would have been curious to see that. That must be, So you know all the stories then?
There's a lot of stories.
Oh, shit. Honestly, on the podcast. She'll say no,
podcast.
but I want to go.
It's funny too, is from the game standpoint, having been involved in a handful of smaller StrongFit or strongman competitions and stuff like that, the logistics of a thing like the CrossFit Games is fucking...
I've seen the logistics of
sick to my stomach.
Anyways,
Well, and there's always things you can plan, you can have a plan, and then there's okay, Matt Frazier, the sandbag going out of his backpack.
Right.
You can't plan, someone's Miko Salo busting his eardrum or whatever the hell happened. There's all these situations that you cannot imagine for, and then how to handle it, and then there's a time crunch, and then it impacts. When they flew to, we flew up to Aromas, and then there was a strike with the airline, and we're all in the airport, and it was we were all. What was hysterical was we went to finally get food, and every food vendor had been sold out because the CrossFit Games athletes had bought all the food. So these poor people who maybe came there to fly, actually somewhere that weren't part of the CrossFit Games, was why is there no food here? And I think there was 1 or 2 people on that flight that weren't Games people who were probably can I take a different flight? It was, so it's and I'm thinking, how is this not a complete red alarm?
Why do we not have cameras when all this happens? I want a documentary on that. Just hologram athletes going into the plane.
When Sivan used to do behind the scenes,
that would have been so good.
That was really we.
I want an interview of those 2 people in the plane.
Yeah.
So what do you think about CrossFit? They're hungry.
So that's my history with HQ. Obviously, I've gotten to when there was the open announcements and regionals, would get to travel and assist on those, and that's really where you get to meet like, okay, those local affiliates, and you get to see people in the community.
And you stayed in touch.
Yeah,
Is that
yeah,
right?
and
Yeah.
that's where you just the community really, like as an co-affiliate owner and person that worked for CrossFit, like it's really it's huge. I mean, we could go to, so I was saying on the way here, even this weekend, like connecting with some of the old staff, like we could go anywhere probably and not have to go to a hotel because you know somebody, because you really keep those relationships, and obviously still owning an affiliate, you know, that's just, we've, I think, developed a name for ourselves as people who really are trying to bring the best of, keep bringing the best of CrossFit forward.
For 11 years, you've seen all the phases.
Right.
Because you've been there from basically almost from the beginning. So
Right.
2008, that's early on.
Yeah.
Was he still in Aromas in 2008, right?
Yeah. That was the last, 2009 was the last year in a row.
Oh yeah, so that's OG, right? Yeah.
The tent city. That was, but it was cool because I really wanted to go up there on the plane when we found out, like, I was not the whisperer at that time. I was part of the team. But I'm like, I want to go to Aromas. And so, like, at the very last minute, Dave's like, fine, you can come. I didn't, like, sleep. You know, we were just, okay, get your passport, get there. And, like, the poor guy, one of the guys who was, like, the logistics guy, I didn't want his job. I mean, he was trying to get people who didn't have visas through, and it was, and I was like, I'm just gonna go. I think Dave Lipson gave me a ride to the airport, and I just heard about, he was just so mad that he wasn't getting to go. I'm like, I don't care right now, Dave. Just drive me to the airport. I don't care about like the situation. I just need a ride. And it was really cool being there again. Like I had been there as a spectator in 2009, and like walking out and seeing all the logs and the bars. Like it was really cool. Yeah. It was a really cool thing. So.
And Bill, tell us a bit about your background. How did you make your way into CrossFit?
Yeah, so I was a high level, I was an All-American college soccer athlete, graduated, obviously wanted to continue training, had this idea of going into the military on kind of like the back of my mind or in my heart, and always was kind of training for that. And so my brother actually, who was a pilot, came back from a deployment in like 2008 or something, and was like shredded. And I was like, dude, what just happened?
Yeah.
And he's like, well, I didn't drink booze for 6 months, and I did this thing called CrossFit. I'm like, well, what is that?
I was like, well, I'm not giving up booze. What's booze?
Yeah.
What's
Yeah.
CrossFit?
So like,
How did you train? So
now I
exactly.
really
just go harder.
I got only one option left.
yeah. So I guess I have to do this. Anyway, so looked at CrossFit.com. I was like, what is this thing? And kind of dabbled a little bit around there. So like 08, 09 time frame.
Well, you have to say your first workout, the dumb approach that you guys took to that.
Yes, getting there.
Okay.
Just like most people at that time, I was doing awful CrossFit in a 24-hour fitness gym. At the time, it was like Dallas,
that's
Texas.
where we all started.
Yeah. And it was just like, all right, well, this is what it's going to be.
Many people started that way.
Yeah,
like,
I did.
Because before, and I think if you're outside of like a major market, anyone who found CrossFit heard about it somewhere, went to CrossFit.com,
Yep.
Let me
and
try
then
this.
and then was just like, what is this workout?
Yeah.
And then
And said, oh, I can do that.
and over the course of many months, got from being like you did, where it was like whatever I was doing was not this, to gradually understanding the thing. And so, and then usually that sparks the demand. In our town, it was a few people like that doing those things. Talked to the YMCA board. They brought in an affiliate. Boom.
Right.
So now that's how you have it there. But so many of these communities started with just that, like somebody following some website, because that's really what it was on the
come back
ground
then.
level.
Fuck yeah.
But what's really funny about it is, now people are very spoiled. Like, I have to drive like 15 minutes.
Yeah.
When I first decided to affiliate, the closest gym, the first gym that opened in New Jersey, Gorilla Fitness, a friend of ours, Greg, that was like, by the time traffic, everything, it was an hour. We'd go there, do a 10-minute workout, an hour and a half back, and it was like, okay, but you sought out, like, where is this happening? And I will drive there. So now we'll be like, 15 minutes. You're like, 15 minutes? I spent
it's nothing,
your travel to
And
your
you have
gym.
bumper plates. I had to do the grace with the metal
Yeah.
blades and all the shit, and you can drop
that was one of the funniest things I thought was, so I was in this Globo gym. Kettlebells weren't accessible. You had to like smuggle one in in 08, 09 time
I was
frame.
using dumbbells.
Yeah. using dumbbells. So I was swinging. I would do kettlebell swings with either the dumbbell or the handled plates. Rowing, whenever there was a row, and back then the scale was, I think it was like 10 sumo deadlift high pulls for every 50 meters or something. So row
That
5K.
doesn't seem right at all.
It was something. But
That's a bad workout.
Sumo deadlift high pull with a empty bar, 20 pounds or whatever.
And rowing a 5K.
Was no.
Yeah,
Sumo
that was the
deadlift high
sub.
pulls
Was
was the
50 meters.
sub.
Was
Because
the
constant two
substitution.
You didn't
rowers.
have a rower.
There was no
Yeah.
rower.
Oh.
Yeah. The first time I was on a
That's where
rower.
your back problems started.
Yeah.
So then I practiced jumping deadlifts. For the next
Exactly.
Right? And I was like, you don't understand. The ability to sit on a rower is completely taken for granted. The first time I was on a rower was at my level 1. And I'd been doing CrossFit for over
That's
a year.
right. They taught rowing at the level 1 at that time.
So it was like, anyway, so that was the thing. I enlisted into the Army. And that was really why I found CrossFit, because it was going to be, I needed something to get me prepared for what eventually would be a career in Special Forces in the Army. And this works, apparently.
Yeah.
Because and did my first workout.
It worked better than the other shit. Yeah.
Yeah, it worked. And like, what am I going to be possibly presented with that I'm going to need to perform physically and mentally? And how can I get there? And this was the system that I thought could get there and everything. And my brother was working a bunch with like PJs, so Air Force Pararescue guys, and they're in the special operations community, and they kind of were.
And that was your training group?
No.
Oh my God! I can only imagine the level of intensity.
It was all. It was similar to like, I was by myself, and so that was it. But we came back. My brother came back, and then I flew up back home, and we went into like Bally's or something. I'm like, dude, let's finally do like a CrossFit workout together. And we did, or maybe this was before. I guess this
Barbara.
was before. Anyway, we did Barbara, but he puts like 135 pounds on the bar.
Barbara is like 20, 30, 40, 50. Or,
Pull up, push up,
every
sit
3
up,
minutes
squat.
yeah.
And it's fit, and it was, whatever, 50, I think, squats. And I'm like, dude, I can't do 250 barbell squats.
I thought it was body weight.
It
It
was
is supposed to be,
But
but
this
there's
was,
these idiots decide
So you say to do with weight.
because of course it's like body weight squat. Like,
Oh, we
What's
don't do
an air
that.
squat?
Yeah, we don't do that.
And I'm like, dude, first of all, 20 pull-ups, I can't, what's happening? Anyway, needless to say, wiped out, looking up at the floor, being like, what the
Up
heck
at the
was
ceiling.
that? Up at the ceiling, or the floor. Looking up at that, thinking, what
There was some
happened?
rolling around, so-
I was a high level, like I was always a very fast, very fit athlete. I feel like I'm reduced to nothing. What happened? I need, clearly there's something amiss, like that I'm missing.
There's a gap.
So then started doing CrossFit, moved back home a few months before shipping out, and a buddy that I grew up with started coaching at a new CrossFit gym, and I wanted to go check it out. Like I want to see one of these, and it happened to be Karianne's, and so I walked in, and there we go.
So, coach-athlete relationship, let's talk about that. You got married, so it's okay.
Yeah.
There you go.
It all worked out.
It all
So
worked
far,
out.
so good.
Yeah.
It's like, hey, who's that?
But it was funny because, he walked in late, but that's fine.
Man, she still remembers.
Fit guy, but at the
years.
time we had this competitor group, and so of course he was like he joined that, but he couldn't climb a rope, and I was like, what's wrong with you? I wasn't, I was playing hard to get. I wasn't going to give him more accolades. That's what he said. Rich Froning can't climb a rope either. I'm like,
So hey,
That's one way to look at it. I like it. That's a good way to look at it. Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, that was the games. Yeah, where it was like,
Right,
if you
where
can't
you-
climb
yeah.
this rope, you're gonna get you're not winning the games. And it was like, oh boy, I better
finished
figure
second.
that out.
Yeah.
You're right. Everybody, before the game, they were like, who's going to win? And me, I said Rich Froning that year because I've seen him doing the regionals back then, destroying everybody.
Yeah.
So he finishes the workout, he qualifies. He still wins, right? So he's qualified for the CrossFit Games. He's so far ahead, he sprints down the hill to run back up with the number 2 guy
Right.
to help him. And I'm like, who the fuck is that guy?
Yeah.
And why does he have eyeliners?
Yeah, right.
Yeah, I don't understand. Right. He looked like he had eyeliner every time. I'm like, that's so weird with his necklace. I was like, that's just a weird look. Dude. Anyway,
Shark tooth necklace. And
But that was at the time where
what are you doing?
I did regionals, so I was I was in that weird where normal people, like at the time where like normal people could compete, and did regionals a few years. But the first year I competed, it was actually sectionals.
Right.
And
I
then,
was there, the
so,
first one in UCLA.
Yeah,
in
the
Los Angeles.
affiliate, so Greg, the owner of this Gorilla Fitness, he hosted, and they made up their own workouts at that time.
I remember that.
And then so I went on to regionals, which was in a parking lot in Albany, Jason Ackerman's gym. And the whole pull-up rig, like when you would do a pull-up, it would like move, like back and forth. And I didn't know how to do like a kipping handstand push-up at the time. And so then it was like halfway through, you're like, I should figure this out.
Did you have a strict?
Yeah, I mean, I was getting no reps quite a bit, which pissed me off enough to figure out how to, I'm like, what are these people doing? Oh, they're doing something. They're like, okay, let me try that.
That's a good old days of CrossFit
yeah,
right
so
there.
that was, but that's funny because in those days there were still things like people were experimenting with and figuring out like, ooh, what's that like?
Back then,
I'll
that
try
was when it's like, oh, Annie can't do a muscle up. Has never even heard of one before.
Yeah.
Right.
And then
Yeah,
now
she
it's
showed
like,
up.
She learned it in the, I mean, just let me figure
She
this
did.
out.
Yeah, she
okay?
did one, didn't she? Or
Yeah.
two?
Yeah.
She got him in the back, like I think Jeff Tucker was there at the games, like in the back,
Amazing.
hey.
I'll give you a shot. Try. You ain't gonna win this
Yeah,
thing, but you might get
I
one.
remember her crying because she was like 19 at the time or some shit.
Jeez.
So since then, there's been a lot of change in CrossFit, and I think it's important to emphasize kind of where we all sit still at this moment, though, with what our relationship is to CrossFit, right? Like in my case, CrossFit is essentially the catalyst that took me from no health, no giving a shit about any of those things to everything that I'm doing now that's been in this space. So all of that is due to the fact that I got involved with CrossFit, at some point. Had I not, I don't know when or if that change would have happened.
How did you hear about it, by the way?
I had never heard about it. I had a friend who was telling me we should do it because he was a little overweight, but he had lost a bunch of weight.
Right, and then you
he's
couldn't,
like-
and you were not going to let him look better than you.
So he has always been approximately 50 pounds heavier than me our entire lives. He's a few years older than me. He's a football player, was wrestler. He's always heavier than me. And then he started like riding bike and eating paleo, and
Paleo.
and then all of a sudden he drops like 90 pounds, and he's like 15, 20 pounds lighter than me because I was at my heaviest then.
It's like, no.
And I'm like, no. I'm the good-looking one.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that is not
And
happening.
so that was it. I was like,
First workout.
I'd love to say that it was like, I just had this moment where I was like, I have a family. And I was like, no.
You're not looking
You're
good.
not going to look better. Than
First workout.
Vanity.
First workout was a really, really slow onboarding thing where you're just like almost a small group movement assessment where I literally could not squat to a 20-inch box air squat.
Yeah.
I mean, I just was kind of fat and couldn't move and couldn't do anything. And so after all of that, I think the actual WOD for us was something silly, like 8 sit-ups, 10 push-ups,
But isn't it
and 12 air
amazing how that
squats.
will destroy people?
For like 8 minutes.
Yeah.
And of course, I did it
longest
like
8 minutes of your life.
like everybody does when they start, though. When you see that that's what it is and it's only for 8 minutes, you
Yeah.
go, oh. Well, you're like, I'm going to get
chill,
after
yeah,
it.
right,
yeah.
And then you realize how long 30 seconds is when you're doing things.
Yeah.
Like 30 seconds of doing things like that at a fast pace is a long 30 seconds.
Right.
First
And I-
round 1 minute, next 2 rounds
Yeah,
7
I
minutes.
done that with Cindy, by the way.
With
yeah,
with what I've learned from Julian over the years now, is like the way that I started every workout, no matter what it was I would fight until I would crash,
Yeah.
Right.
and then I would catch my breath, and then I would fight. And so for me, it was maximum output, total holding pattern, maximum output, which is doesn't
Interval training.
exactly.
kind of.
Back to the basics.
They actually even wrote my name on that first gym on the rings that hung from the ceiling, the gymnastics rings, because almost all of the time I would be dying so bad,
You're
and I'm a
dying
little
from-
dramatic
dying.
about it that I would grab onto the rings, just go, oh fuck, oh.
That's funny.
And so since then I've done away with all of that conditioning, and now if I started again, I would be in that state. I just can squat.
I
heavier now.
always say it's not good for you.
But I guess what I'm trying to say here is to I do want to validate what CrossFit has accomplished.
Yeah, give credit where credit
What
is
they've
due.
done is change all of fitness. They've definitely rewritten the way that women train, and also made women in strength sports not such a oddity anymore.
Like even the other way around. You mean
like you know what I mean? It's
They
not like
normalize it.
what you're lifting weights.
Well, that's why powerlifting, Olympic weightlifting is surging up so much in the US and the world. It's because of CrossFit. And that one, especially with women, you can't, there's no question.
So, and I think it's safe to say that it's because it was effective at what it did. You know, it was effective at that point. But we do want to get into, after establishing that we're in no way trying to compete with CrossFit, and in no way do we want anything. It's not that we like CrossFit needs to improve, as in numbers, as in everything, because I believe that what they're doing is right, and what the mission is right. However, it's like they've been sidetracked, it feels like, for the last few years.
There's been issues.
Yeah.
There's been issues. But that's the thing, is we can point out the issues without trying to replace CrossFit. I think that's the problem there with StrongFit. It has to be StrongFit or CrossFit. I was like, no. Yeah. I'm not a scavenger. I have no interest in taking over or whatever. I just want to help people. Yeah. And I think CrossFit is a great way for people to get in the gym and doing all this stuff. Yeah. But you can still point out issues without saying, let's torch down the building and build another one. I just like, no, everything is great, can we make it better? That's all, because there are issues in place.
Yeah, and I think back to sort of how we ended up finding you guys, you know, and getting involved in StrongFit. And it wasn't like we were doing CrossFit, we were CrossFit, now we're doing StrongFit. It was something that we saw and really built probably about 2 years ago. And, you know, the gym, obviously I started the gym, that was my passion. When he got out of the military, he got involved and started working the gym with me and brought a ton of, you know, just different perspective and helped a tremendous amount.
So he took over.
Basically took over. Then I was like, no. Added value. Added value.
No, I just like pushing buttons. That's all. It's not a problem. Yeah.
I mean, we may disagree on a few things. You know, there was one night that I'm like, this is insane. Like, we have to stop talking. Like, we need to not just talk about the gym. You know, it's a friendly discussion. But he had, you know, I had come from the competitive side of CrossFit. You know, obviously was deeply involved in HQ and the affiliates and the competition. And, you know, at one point, I think that it was right when probably the game started becoming a little bit in question. And he asked me one day, like, do you think, probably at home, like over dinner, like, do you think people are getting better? And I was sort of like offended. I was pissed. I was like, of course they're getting better. Like, my programming is great. And are you saying my programming is bad? Like, because that's basically what it sounds like to me. And so that didn't go over well. But over time, slowly, and he has sort of started to look at things, look at maybe some pitfalls, what's really happening in the gym, not just, you know, and having to look at ourselves as the leaders of the gym. Like, what are we really doing and where are there some problems? And so that conversation, eventually I did sort of, I was the person that was like, why would I do it this way if I can do it this way faster? And it's like, well, because like, you're gonna get hurt and you're not using your musculature. I'm like, I don't, like, we would literally start workouts. He's like, you're doing strict pull-ups. I'm like, nope, doing butterflies. Here we go.
There you go, Let's go my shoulder.
Like, you know, so.
I got two of them.
There was an open workout.
I'll use the other one.
2 opens ago, and I am all over her for the way she does bar muscle ups, because it's not a bar muscle up, it's like a glide.
I was a gymnast.
It's like a glide kip. Like, you didn't use anything that we want to see. Anyway,
glide kip.
I was at home with the dogs, and I was texting her, and I wasn't going to go into the gym that day. And she was like, I'm actually going to do it. I drove in.
He walks in. He's like, I'm judging her.
No rep.
I'm like,
did
you not trust that? And yeah, he's like, dude, I'm like,
don't you? Yeah, exactly.
I'm like,
By the way,
not in a competitive place at all to make the open anyway, or to make.
Clarification: when you say are people getting better, you don't mean first 6 months or the first year. What we're talking about is there's always that moment, usually like 2 year mark. Like 1 year mark, 2 year mark, depending on a bit of people, where suddenly
past the honeymoon stage.
Past the honeymoon stage where everybody makes progress. There seems to be a moment where just hit the wall, and then past that, let's be honest, they don't make progress.
I remember the moment coaching the class that led me to like really sit on that question for a while, because I knew it probably wasn't. It's a sensitive thing, you know, because you.
It's your programming, fuck yeah.
Well, and for them, they're paying a lot of money and probably
they're
working
the
pretty
effort.
fucking hard.
If you're gonna put in that much work, you better get better.
Yeah, and I remember like it was like as if time stopped, and I'm watching. And I know exactly who it was with the kettlebell in the front of the class, and I just was watching it, being like, "This is not working."
You're still a wreck.
Like this isn't. You're not really doing it well. It's not. You've been doing this for probably 4 years at this point. Yeah. you're still using a 35-pound kettlebell.
No, plus
We're
you still
not
look like shit.
Yeah, it doesn't look good. I can just tell that you're not doing it aggressively.
Just checking boxes.
And and so it was a kind of moment where I was like, we need to really face
You know what?
the
That
music.
is what I heard from most main coaches, gym owners at the seminars. It's that conversation. I was like, I'm here, like I have those people, they're years in, and they look exactly the same. They still move like shit, they're not making progress. And as a coach, there's a moment where you go, if you're
What
a
am I
real
doing?
coach, you go like, what am I doing?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think that's the, and we've talked about it so for 2 years, we've sort of, okay, how do we, what we knew we couldn't do. And I mean, I don't think we had the answer of like, okay, well, this is exactly where we're going. But we knew we had to sort of go in this general direction. And what you can't do is just 180 degrees, we're going to just turn the ship. So, Bill's analogy is like it's a cruise ship. So it's like a very slow turning. But how can we start adding things in to make that improvement? And I think one of the things, in the process, whether or not you do an intro class, an intro session, whatever your onboarding process is for people, I think one of the things we kind of like trade is someone coming in the door. And I know, Coach Glassman has said this himself, like we just need to get people in the door, like biking. Okay, like get on the bike, do something. For that person, they need to start identifying themselves as like somebody who, this is something I do, like I think it's a Seth Godin thing, like people like this do things like that. The problem, or one of the things if you're not careful, is that process, you kind of skip over some things to get that person into that place. And then if you never go back, now they're just moving their limbs and they've never been told like, okay, what does it feel like for your chest to work? What does it feel like for your glute? But you're asking them to do at some points some pretty high skill things without that connection to their body. Yeah. And so if you never address that, then you do get into a place where, 3 years in for that person, there's only so much, there's a ceiling there.
It's like walking out on one very thin branch.
Right.
It's like, there's just not, you can only go so far.
Right. And at some point, then to go back, it feels like they're going back. So how do you start to really build that a little smarter so that they don't end up out on this very thin branch and have to like come all the way back or get injured and never come back?
Yeah.
I think the problem was the connection. From the beginning, it was teach position, don't teach connection, don't teach tension, just look the part.
Right.
That went on too fast, but I think like when they jumped to the high skill movement, that's what the CrossFit Games happened. I mean, we're going to talk about this, but like I don't think that was never the original point of CrossFit though.
Right.
Like that one I'll put also on the affiliates because a lot of them don't even know who Greg Glassman is.
Right.
Like I talk worldwide, maybe it's better in the US, but talking worldwide to coaches, owners, and everything, a lot of them have no clue who Greg Glassman is. The number of people who have not seen the early Greg Glassman videos, to me, is baffling. If I was HQ, that's the first thing I would do is I would take all those ones and put it back out there because he's charismatic and he explains what CrossFit is. I got in fights at seminars, especially with French people, because fuckers don't speak French, so of course they don't know any of this, right? Where they were telling me stuff, I was like, no. And then I would repeat what Greg Glassman said. I said, you don't understand CrossFit. I'm
You're
like,
telling
I just
CrossFit
quoted,
owners what CrossFit is.
Well, no,
but I just quoted Greg Glassman and they go like, basically they saying like, who the fuck is that anyway?
Well,
I'm like, it's the
that's
guy.
one of the things too. It's like, not to say like, oh, you're not better because you're old school. Your time doesn't mean a damn thing.
Yes.
But what that implies with us is like the only place we could get information was from the journal, was from the media. So it was like, it could not be consumed at a greater rate because there was the information availability was so low.
That's an important thing to point out too, is we had seen this shift, I would say, over that decade probably, where 100% of the information that came out about CrossFit, where you learned about CrossFit, it wasn't really a marketing thing. It wasn't saturated with advertising and brands and sexiness and all that other shit.
Right.
It was a journal.
You got your information from the journal and from other people that were training it. And that was it. Yeah.
And people had a base of strength and conditioning.
And then you would and then you would get educated at your seminars and those other things. But that's it. And now we had this shift. And that shift is about the same time that I had opened my affiliate, where then what's representing CrossFit most in the world?
Right.
Instagram.
Yeah.
And then that becomes money, brands, sex appeal, competition, freaky fast shit, loud techno music, cool slow motion angles, boom, boom, boom. And it's great. It looks good.
Well, and within
and
affiliates,
it sells things. The average person, the average Joe Blow at a gym saying all the wonderful things about the training and progress he's made is not going to fucking sell any Fit Aid.
Yeah.
Right.
Therefore, what do we promote?
Right.
The things that sell.
But
And
you know, one of the first there was an affiliate gathering that I was at. I think it was one in Texas. But at any rate, you know, those gatherings, I think back to that, and like that was a place where we came together. People exchanged information. Like, what are we doing? I didn't have that feeling of looking on Instagram at other affiliates who, as we've said, like Instagram is putting out, they're making them, you know, they look amazing. Like, look at this affiliate's crushing it. There wasn't that like competitive, I have to like
Pressure.
like position myself to look a certain way.
Yeah.
To look better than I am.
Right. It was just like, I didn't have any clue what was happening in terms of like, the only thing was talking to other affiliate owners, which has kind of gone by the wayside, and getting together and sharing ideas and sharing stuff. It wasn't, let me look better than you.
But that
and
gave
then
you the
that's
time to study the game.
Right. You
That's the
weren't,
thing
you weren't
too, that-
distracted by that comparison.
Because that I'll blame the owners on that. They're not studying the game. If you don't know who Greg Glassman is, if you even watch the video one, you don't know your basics.
Right. They're spending their time on their marketing. And that is one thing that Greg Glassman has always, that's never been a thing. I mean, sure, there's a million ways. It's a business. So sure, marketing is a
get
part
good
of
at
it.
it first.
But it can't, that's a crutch for, you can't just put
sucks
everything
if you're
on
selling
that.
turds if they look real good on
Right,
Instagram.
right.
It's just hard to see.
Yeah.
I think it is interesting though. We see, you know, as that trend kind of moved towards more of those things, the education, then people began to just learn about what CrossFit is from what they saw, which is PR lifts at the very least, high performing athletes, competitive athletes, competitions, that stuff. And it just, I think, started to, with people who weren't familiar with the era of the CrossFit Journal and what CrossFit is founded upon, those affiliates and often those clients even are the ones that are consuming this other easier to get stuff. And then it changes the way that CrossFit is interpreted, not just from the outside, but the way it's used in affiliates. Because then we see these issues where, you know, CrossFit, if you take the level 1 seminar, it's very simple, like in a way that Julian describes, it is a constraint-based training methodology. It's very simple.
Or it's supposed to be anyway.
Yeah, you know what I mean? It's
it started as a
constantly
constraint-based,
varied, functional movement, high intensity.
Right. Okay, but let's
So
go back for a
let's
second.
stay within that box and we're good.
We're good, but that's where some of it has to fall on CrossFit issue as well, because what is CrossFit? Like, not the training system, right? We have the training system.
Like, where does it sit out in the world?
No, but who is CrossFit?
Yeah.
Right. We have the training system that I like, that is constraint-based, that Greg Glassman created. You know, like intensity, functional movements, constantly varied. Those are constraint, non-objective-based. That's where the magic happened. Great. That's the training system. We have the CrossFit Games. We know that. Right. We have HQ who runs the business. Fine. Who's CrossFit? And we have the community. Right. So who is CrossFit? Is it HQ? Or is it the community? Or is it the CrossFit Games? It's not the CrossFit Games, because that's not working on an affiliate level. That's not working. It's just a nightmare for everybody. All right, so who is CrossFit then? HQ or the community? I'm cool with either, but at some point, we're going to have to figure out who that is so that we can move the shit forward.
Yeah.
Right.
Otherwise, the issues will never get solved. So either it's HQ, but then they're going to have to do things they don't want to do. I know for a fact that the whole quality control stuff like that, they're not going to touch it because Greg Glassman is a libertarian and he thinks he shouldn't. Whether you agree or not, I don't care. He's the boss. Well, he's the boss, so he does whatever the fuck he wants. It's his company. Okay, but then it's the CrossFit community. But if it is, then we have to all circle the wagons, realize it's up to us, and move forward. But at some point, that's a conversation.
Right.
That's a conversation needs to have. But you can't just ask the CrossFit community to have that conversation, and HQ has to say it. You know what I mean? Like, someone has to explain who CrossFit is. Then.
Right. Well, and what's interesting is like the CrossFit affiliates are all kind of, one of the things that happens is they're pointing the finger at other CrossFit gyms. Like that, the CrossFit down the street is causing problems by giving CrossFit a bad name. And so I think within the community, I think they see, I think if you ask the average affiliate owner, well, yes, I think there's things they wish HQ kind of gave them. At the same time, I think if they were honest about where they think their problems are coming from, it's like, well, CrossFit down the street is doing a shitty job, and that's all the people that know that think that's what I do. So in a way, it's like kind of it is at the community level that if we're all putting that sign out, we have a responsibility to do right by that name.
Yeah.
And that's where there is kind of an issue. And we were talking before, I mean, Bill's point was really valid, that like at the same time as they're not going to tell you like execute it this way, or we're going to come in and tell you it's quote unquote wrong and do quality control, you do have quite a bit of freedom. But with freedom comes responsibility. And that means, you know, people that have the freedom that are just kind of putting out a subpar, not educated product, that's the communities. That's where we have to say,
but
like,
then the
we need
message
help.
out there has to be clear that it's not HQ.
Right.
Yeah, but then people have to, you know what I mean? Like this has to be clear.
which
So
But then you have to
That's
stop
what they-
blaming that. You have to
Exactly.
take responsibility.
Well, it's very
and say,
easy
okay.
to say like, hey, I'll give you a kind of funny example. I have our garage is affiliated.
yeah. Yeah.
I have 0 members. It's an invite only. There's actually
One person called and he said, no, it's invite only. And I'm like, what the hell just happened?
yeah.
I mean, do you want anybody to come here?
Nonetheless,
No, it doesn't.
there is
yeah.
it's my output. Right. So nonetheless though, I mean, HQ has never reached out. They've never, like, I have to pay insurance and there's a fee or whatever. Yeah. But they've never said like, what's going on? You have 0 members. Yeah. In fact, when I went to redo my
Did they ever
insurance,
ask how many members you
Well, no, but they don't know.
the insurance actually, when I was doing the RRG
That'll go
subscribe,
up
they
to
were
you.
like, "Hey, you sent back. You have 0 members 2 years in a row. Can you like?" And I'm like, "Nope, that's accurate." And so it's like,
I'm
okay,
just really bad at
Yeah.
this business.
yeah, I'm just terrible. So like, my point is, but like
Okay.
HQ hasn't reached out, and whether or not they know, you know, because we both work for level 1 staff and whatever, that's not the point. They're not going to reach out and say, "Hey, I'm gonna target you now for some sort of help."
Yeah.
Because it's very much do it on your own, and you have that ability.
Okay, but then what you can't do is have the CrossFit Games, blow up, promote that, and let that loose on the affiliate where they are fucking stuck in a very between a rock and a hard
Because it's
place.
confusing, and it's
Because
also
now,
and
that's
also
the same in
that
an impossible
goes
situation.
to the end user, meaning it's on us to educate our clients, generally speaking, on what we want from them, all those things.
But you can't do that.
But you can't. It's hard to do that when something that shares the same name as you, no matter what
Yes.
the client, what
That's
the
not fair.
situation is.
That's an unfair stuff
Yeah,
to the
so
affiliate.
I'm stuck with all these clients coming in. I either have to tell them that, no, it's not all this crazy shit. You totally can do it. It's
Right,
fine.
right.
Or I have to tell them like, no, it's not all that crazy shit. Like, tone it down. That's not the point. You're
Right,
gonna get
but
your
then
shit
now
back.
they go next door because the other guys,
Yeah.
unfortunately, said that he can do it.
And
so you're
that
gonna
is-
have it both
And
ways.
so this is not this specific thing isn't a problem that I have a solution for necessarily, but I think it's important to note that we're talking about affiliate owners and HQ, for the people walking into your gym or the people who haven't signed up for your gym yet, you are your neighbor who says CrossFit. You are. If I go into a McDonald's, I've never been to a McDonald's, and I get fucking sick, like just sick.
Yeah.
It's
All
going to be a long
McDonald's,
time before I
yeah.
want McDonald's.
Right.
Yeah.
And it doesn't. I'm not going to care
Yeah, that's a great
privately.
analogy.
You're just going to
So,
have that taste. in
With
your
great power comes great responsibility. All right, then it's on HQ as well. Then which you're doing now, thank God. That's why I'm happy.
At the very
Glassman-
least, it sounds.
Glassman is back and he's trying to go back to World Health as he should
Right,
be.
I mean,
but for 6 years, he was gone.
Right. There's
so
a
that
lot
did
of
not
catching
help.
up to do, and I think
Yes, exactly.
But so at this point, now that's if people. I mean, there's a lot of affiliate owners we know who have not. They didn't even know anything changed on the .com. So now you're an affiliate owner. At the very least, you're not going to CrossFit.com,
Right.
Because
That's
it's
true.
very different since January. As of January
Yeah.
1. It not only looks different, but like the videos that they're putting up, the workouts
The
they're putting
programming.
up, the programming is totally different. So, like, I know that's not enough to say like, but if you're not even doing that, then you're not.
No, I
you're
agree.
not
They
even
have to do
coming
the,
to
they
the
have to
table
do the work, for
to do
sure.
anything.
Okay, so what we're saying, it's on the community.
Right.
All right. Okay, so but at least now we know where the work has to be done.
Right.
So
Right,
when
so
we,
that means
and that's the thing. So we see like there are things that there also just are things that we can't do, right?
Right.
That we can't do.
Yeah.
Meaning I cannot communicate on behalf of CrossFit HQ
right.
to the masses about what this thing really is, especially without a fucking Instagram, whatever. You know what I mean? Like, what are you just yelling to these people, sending a newsletter?
Well,
to
the people that
already
know
subscribe?
already know.
That's where I'm at with it. But anyways, all of that aside, all of those things aren't things that we can do to help that situation. I think accountability is going to fall somewhere between HQ and the affiliates.
Yeah.
And I don't care about accountability.
But I mean, then the responsibility for solving the problem
Sure.
is going to kind of fall on both sides. So let's help where we can help.
Right, which is the community.
No, but that's my thing. Me, I only care to know, okay, how do we fix a thing?
Right.
Yeah.
So where do we start and how do we do this?
So where do we start?
Yeah, what are the issues?
Okay, I think some of the issues are...
You're an affiliate owner, so what are the issues?
And so some of the things we were seeing, which is where sort of we started saying like, okay, some things have to change. Obviously, like we can point to the games, but that programming, that style, which we can talk about movements and how it's executed. I think those are kind of the two areas. So, some of the movements when we're asking people to come in who don't have a basis of connecting to their bodies, and then saying like, okay, maybe we're going to perform a snatch, which is a perfectly fine movement, but in Olympic weightlifting, you're not doing 30 or 50 in a clip, and I absolutely think going back to like experiencing things and learning things, which was where CrossFit started. Sure, of course, there's coordination and PVC as a warm up, but what we know about people is they are not going to do the workout, or nor is it really effective or getting them fitter to do a workout with a PVC pipe. So now they don't want to be there. So now you're like, well, let's give you a barbell. And now they shouldn't be doing that, and et cetera, et cetera. So I think there's some things where we have to look at, okay, what are the movements we're doing? How are we delivering them? What is it are we preparing people properly to get to that movement if we're going to do it? So I think some of the pitfalls are the programming, the movements we're programming, and the education behind them. And then some of it's this intensity kind of issue. What we started seeing is people are addicted to the intensity. So it's like they just are coming in, and whether it's because they see people at the CrossFit Games laying on their back and whatever, or there's a certain type of person that also comes to CrossFit, but you're telling them for 8 years, we were telling them, intensity, and then you're looking at it, and now because they're trying to hit that all the time, they're not actually getting intense. They're just at that 80% mark, and they're stuck. Then they connect it back to their score. Then they feel like shit about that because they're not getting what they want. Then they're just in this loop where the whole point of us opening a gym, and what I started this was to help people. And I'm like actually causing these people harm now. So that's kind of the loop, I think, looking at like the what are they doing and the how are they doing it.
Well, I always ask, it's a common question you ask if someone's been in every time they're around that 2-year mark, is your relationship to fitness better or worse now than it was after 6 months we were in? And often
it's worse.
It's worse.
Well, or it's like, I don't know, why are you asking me?
Right.
Yeah. And then it's like, man, you like that was the right question apparently. And they don't realize how dysfunctional that relationship can be. Just like that, you're constantly disappointing yourself because of the score, because now you don't have the intensity because you just you're hurt.
And by the way, you don't have the intensity.
Yeah.
Right.
That's the thing.
The irony. Is you're not getting to get there.
You were really going at it the first 6 months. Now you just it's objective versus constraint. But now you're going at the score. You're just trying to get 2 seconds off that time. But at the end, your form is going to shit. You look exactly the same or worse. Like it's just not working anymore.
Yeah, and I think we identified kind of like, we need to really address this in that we are potentially promoting disordered thinking.
Yep.
And the way the way in which we're doing that is by some of the workouts or the intensity and stuff. And so when we look at people and we really look at them, it's not that they're addicted necessarily to intensity. They want it, they're chasing it, but they're also desperately trying to tell themselves something more about who they are and associating somebody that goes hard in a workout with that thing.
And that it's working.
And it's working. And if I don't do that more dangerously,
that's what scares me the most.
Then I'm less than, not just from an athletic level, from a human being.
Well, and especially when there is maybe a bit of a skill deficiency. When it's like, oh, I just need to go faster then, because that faster is going to validate my.
I just need to snatch, and it's like, but what have you done? You're a 38-year-old dad of 2 or mother of 1.
Yeah.
What have you ever done anything?
Take twice as long on them and don't get hurt.
And it's like, wait a second, but you've never done anything really like at that level. We are
promoting that idea that I don't want to say that they can be the CrossFit Games athlete, but they can be like something like that.
Yeah.
And that's
the
not
athlete
true.
identity.
It's like you have
That's
the
not
CrossFit
true.
Games athlete, and then you photocopy what that looks like, and then you photocopy it and photocopy it. And anybody that's photocopies after a while knows it looks nothing like the original thing.
Yeah.
And then we give that 20 photocopies later to somebody, and they're like, "That's what I want. I want to be like that person." And we're like, "We're not."
Yeah,
Yeah,
we're
but they
not.
have that idea that if they do 50%, they look 50% like them. And I'm like, life doesn't work like
So
that.
it's a good question too, like what is CrossFit? Who is CrossFit? But also like, and this is where I think HQ and the community, the affiliate community, can collaborate on a productive solution in that who is it for? Like truly, who is it for?
And if we're saying it's
Yes,
for
that's very true.
everybody, then there has to be an element of safety, and there has to be some education. And, to go back to, though, what's funny is like we say it's constantly varied in the unknown. But then you watch people, and this was like before we started looking at it, I'm like, okay, wait a second. It's unknown. However, you're going to wear exactly that. You're going to wear your wrist straps. You're going to stand in the same place. I have to have that barbell. I need this. I need
You
that.
will not
and
take
don't
more
turn
than
off the
5
clock.
steps.
And it's like, wait a second.
And
like,
let's be
this
honest, it's
isn't-
12 movements.
Right, like it's
Yeah.
Everybody like it's not
sometimes-
unknown anymore, and so what's funny is that notion, like let's remember though what was the intent, and there was a learning, and so now when you start introducing things and people are like, oh, but like I don't want to do that because I'm not good at it.
Yeah.
There's a balance there. There's letting people feel like they can do things they're good at and have success, but there's also we know we have to keep learning, or else it just becomes like there's something missing there. And I think a lot of affiliates, when presented with like shit, something's broken, but they're afraid to like there's the fear of like, well, if anything changes, then people might leave, or people might because they're in this rut, they're in this cycle, and this is what people are coming for. Meanwhile, what you're not realizing is you're isolating all these other people from coming in the gym to preserve this group of like you're going the wrong way. But you don't want to turn around because now you got to go back a little bit, but you're going to go the wrong way.
And it's often to preserve this maybe small group of people who are
The regionals.
going to burn out and break their shit and end
Right,
up
they're
somewhere
gonna
else.
get injured.
Or they're going to get on God knows
You know what?
comp train,
Because-
whatever, and just do that
That's
shit.
because they're louder. They complain more than the regular Joe over there who's like, excuse me. But the asshole who wants to make regionals, but he's always, 256.
But I
at the
think
open.
I think also just there's a huge assumption and projection of like, oh, this is how this is going to go. One of our members who started in 2010 with us, who was really excited by the competitive piece and really enjoyed that. Another very good friend of ours who started at the same time, ended up leaving his finance job, opening a CrossFit gym in Florida. And they talk all the time, they're friends. And he's still kind of stuck in like, I know something needs to change, how do I change it? So we're having this conversation. He said that this member of ours told him like, hey, we don't do some of these things anymore, but you know what? Like my shoulder doesn't hurt anymore. Like I felt like shit. And so we could have said, oh, this guy's going to leave because like he loves that stuff. But you know what? He's on board because it means he's not in pain and we're not like it's not about taking away. He feels like he now gets to continue and enjoy it. So I don't think projecting, oh my God, I can't change because this is what's going to happen. That's not always true.
And that's a common thing that every business owner, every employee always has, is we'll project our own, whatever our own situation is, onto the rest.
Right.
Meaning, if you do it all the time, ask a gym owner what would happen if they doubled their prices.
Right.
They'd be terrified to ask. Why? Because they don't make enough money to pay that much for something, usually.
Right.
And so that is a lot to them, though it's not to other people. And so I think that thing is very common when people are faced against having to make a decision to change. They're assuming what these other people are going to think, but it's really just what you think.
Right. It's your
So
fear.
to go back to your point. So should everybody do an overhead squat in your gym?
Right. And that, in our opinion, is no.
Right. So everybody out there that has a gym knows that's true. They can say, we can all bullshit all we want about the overhead squat, like it's the greatest movement for this, greatest movement for that. The truth is, and we all know it, there are members in your gym and a big percentage that will never do an overhead squat in their lives. Because if they do, they'll hurt themselves.
Yeah. In my opinion, the way in which you move in an overhead squat is simply a measurement of where you're at from a mobility standpoint and structure. Yeah. The weight on it means nothing to me. I don't know. When I look at that exercise, it's fine if you can do it. And if you can't, okay. There's a million other ways. Like, it just doesn't, to me, it just doesn't matter.
Whether or not it brings you something is even another point. But the original point of CrossFit for Greg Glassman is we all have the same needs.
Yeah.
He didn't say we all need to do the same movements. That's not what he said. He said we have the same needs for mobility and stuff like that, but what varies between grandma and the Olympic athletes is the percentages. Yeah, that means he didn't ever say grandma has to do an overhead squat. She said she needs to improve her mobility, which is true.
And if her mobility was trending towards the point of being able to do an overhead squat, may never get there, may never do one.
My mom is 75 and she started doing CrossFit. I mean, I guess that's probably 10 years ago now. And, you know, one of the things too, we're looking at like, okay, so when you brought it up, like the position idea, like the other day, she's so like, okay, I know I have to keep getting lower and lower and lower. I told her like, don't go low. I just want you to feel this. And she's like, oh my God, like never had felt that ever, because all she was trying to do was like
to go lower,
get lower.
Subjective versus
and it's like, but
constraint.
how is that really helping her? So I think asking that question or looking at it and be like, okay, right, if someone can have success in a squat without trying to figure out how to keep a barbell or a PVC over their head, then isn't that like, what are we trying to do? What are we like looking at? What are we trying
should they
to
go
accomplish?
Lower anyway? By the way, should they break parallel? That's a question we should, at least as a coach, we should ask.
Right.
Because not everybody will break parallel.
Right.
I got news for you. Like a lot of people over 50 or 60 will not break parallel.
But that's the photocopy thing, right?
Yes, exactly.
This is what I said, and this is what they do, and this is what we're told to do. Nobody's saying, wait a second.
Do you think that has something, that mindset though comes from maybe the lack of depth in the education that gets given to CrossFit trainers?
Yeah, I mean, I think the level 1 is designed to be an initial. I mean, you know, what's funny about the level 1 was back when I started on staff, a lot of people that came weren't actually coaches. They were athletes that were interested, like learning about the methodology. But I think it's an initial. It is meant to be an initial, like a starting point into like looking at some things. I do think that yes, position. There's sort of a gap there in understanding the tension, and so I think that definitely is a place where, like, where is that education, and to encourage people to go forward and experiment a little bit with what's appropriate.
But where do you go?
Where do you go? And but it is interesting that I think almost everyone I know, when they've taken their level 1, there's always a couple people there who've never done a CrossFit workout until that time. Like always.
Yeah.
And on that, I'm like, okay, cool, but I hope you're not just gonna go coach right now. But however, I think that's a great. But I remember when I took my level 1, I told my clients, I said, I think you should take it. I do believe there's a lot of value in that course. I think you can learn a lot, but it doesn't make you anything. You know, it gives you permission, is the way I look at it. But then you have to do your learning.
Right. Yeah. But where are you going to do it though?
Yeah.
Right. Because that's my problem with the whole thing. Is I agree that they should. Again, I see a lot of them that don't have a base in strength conditioning and that have not studied the game, and that annoys the fuck out of me, because it's your job to become good at what you do. So you need to fucking put in the work. I say it all the time. But at the same time, where do you go to do it? Because it's kind of easy to tell people, go learn. All right, where do they go? Who is teaching right now outside of CrossFit? So do we need to go past the L1? Fuck yeah. Who's doing it? You have the L2, L3 in CrossFit. Is that enough? Fuck no. But because I don't think that's what they see themselves as being anyway. Who's doing it? Right, so now who's teaching movement outside of physios? Right, is that how we're going to learn strength and conditioning from the physios now? Because that's what I see. Yeah. Who else is teaching movement? So now they're telling you to kettlebell the fuck out of your ankle to get mobility on your squat, and I'm in the back going, are you fucking kidding me? Have you ever seen a guy squatting 200 kilos doing this shit?
But I think it's the physios are stepping in, because there's this gap in strength and conditioning, and then people are like, well, I don't want my people to get hurt. It's a mobility or a physical therapy issue, so I'll just put that in as the solution. But really, where it's like there's a gap in that, and you know, at the level 1, it used to be, and I'm sure it still gets said in closing remarks. However, it's not really being highlighted enough. Like, go learn more. And I think that's where it was, and there are these, whatever it used to be, the specialty courses. I mean, Louis Simmons, like, I do think CrossFit in that way has presented, like, we're not this.
Wait. They were
end.
also shitting on all the global gyms and all that stuff for years. They have to take some blame on that one.
It was
They have to take some blame.
There was an abrasive, extreme us against the world thing when it was.
There
new.
was.
That was also,
agree.
but that was
There
also
was.
a lot of the appeal. That's what brought in a lot of the people.
No, that's what.
culture.
Okay, that's what turned me
Yeah.
away. I love the training system, and I love Greg Glassman's early lectures. The whole your workout is my warm up or stuff like that. That turned me away from CrossFit.
Well,
That's
it
why I
became
was-
like a joke, like, oh, you're gonna do bicep curls, and it's like, but there is utility.
Some of
to
the
that.
strongest people,
Right.
Bill Kazmaier trained, the god of strength, trained in the global gym. You don't get to shit on global gyms. No, you don't.
Well,
That one
I
I'll
think
never.
so much of that did come from the fact that the people that were
In the
coaching.
global gym.
Well, if you go to a global gym, you see a lot of bullshit,
Yes,
right?
yes.
But the people that are coaching and most of your majority of your athletes at CrossFit are not athletes in sport.
No.
They're just not.
Right.
They're
What
fitness.
do they need?
Different.
Exercise.
They're exercise, and it's good because a human being should.
Yeah. But look at
exercise.
Sam Dancer. I mean, you talked about that, I think, on the podcast with Ray. And I actually used that with one of our classes. Like, when we started turning things, we were like, we haven't really done bicep curls. Why are we doing that? You were talking about Sam Dancer preparing for bodybuilding competition.
Oh, he's a fitness guy,
learning how to, like, okay, I need to get my calf turned on. I need to get my quad turned on. Now my calf, my quad, my hamstring. Now my calf, my
and
quad,
you
my
practice
hamstring.
that
And if you,
for-
so it's like, and you can see how, like, I'm sure that translated into helping him as an athlete.
It totally does.
So it doesn't have to be this or that. And that's where I think
Exactly.
when you come in at that time period as an affiliate, and it's like, well, I don't want to do anything that looks like that because I don't want to look unloyal.
But that
and there's
also-
a huge piece
and
of
that was
too.
a problem. That was, to me, that's where the stuff started because it kept people from looking outside of CrossFit to learn. So now, is it totally HQ's fault? No, because it's up to you to put in the work and do it
Right,
anyway.
right.
So I understand, like, the whole time, at the time when Dave Castro was being confrontational, it's part of the gig. I get it. They were making bubbles and doing the stuff, and there was that us against the world. That's fine. But it did start a trend of people refusing to look outside of CrossFit for anything. So at the time, it's like everybody's bashing CrossFit, CrossFit was bashing everybody else just as much as they were being shit on, by the way. So it went both ways. But now you have a culture of CrossFit coaches that refuse to look outside of CrossFit to learn. So that was a problem, and now that's gone away, by the way. That's gone away.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
at some point, it was that because of this. But now we are left with a gap where they don't know where to look. They're not going to look. So you know what happened with not looking at bodybuilding, what they call, which is not the same thing as training in a global gym, is ended up being that strength and conditioning, the pure strength and conditioning background went away as well. Like, we're not going to look at periodization. We're not going to look at that. They don't even know who Louis Simmons is, by the way.
Right.
Who was CrossFit's second strength coach after Dan John and third one after Dan John and what's his name?
Ripito?
Ripito. They don't even know who Louis Simmons is. If I ask what's the conjugate system, they have no fucking clue. So that's the problem. And now they're all content, and that's not on HQ, that's on them. But they're all content of being like, I do CrossFit. I'm like, what does that even mean?
Yeah.
Right.
You don't even know what that means. No one knows what that means.
And
Right.
and we see that for affiliates at the affiliate level, if we're just looking at movements, one of the things we really dug into and looked at ourselves hard in the mirror was, are we extracting the essence out of the movement?
Right.
Or is it the kind of what it sort of looks like?
Yes, exactly.
And for
That's the
often
problem.
it's like it's kind of sort of what it looks like within an acceptable range of error that's maybe not a gross fault.
That's a very good point.
Okay.
Yep.
But we're like, what are we trying
You're
to
spending. It's
But
almost
the
like you're
problem
spending
is,
too much
it's
time in
much
those margins.
easier.
Yeah.
It's much easier to look at how it looks.
Yep.
To take
Yep.
your coaches and say, like, well, it just has to look like this.
Yeah. Right.
Put this body position there is way easier than having to help someone connect to their glutes.
Yeah.
That's
What
a
are we
much
trying
bigger
to-
thing. But
yeah.
are you willing to do the work or not? And I think
Right.
that's where
So-
the
Yeah.
That's part of
looking
the
at
problem.
that,
Now,
yeah.
let's go into how we're going to fix this, because that's really what we're here for.
Yeah,
we want to
bef-
fix it.
And the other part that I think was worth mentioning is that gap is there. People are seeing, like,
So gap
okay,
in knowledge.
the gap in, like, my affiliate isn't doing well. People are saying, like, there's something I don't know if this is working.
What does that mean? Yeah.
Right. So like people are getting injured, or I don't know, like people are coming in, but then we're doing this stuff, or people
Too high
are
of churn.
yeah, like there's
numbers going out
something that doesn't feel right. Enter in people that are trying to say, here's the solution. There are people saying, here's a solution. The problem is it's really not solving what the problem is.
Because they're parasites, you mean?
Right.
Yeah.
So we, and we've just out of curiosity looked at and experienced some of those folks for ourselves. And it's not to say, it's not about bashing other people. However, if it's about like, well, you just got to look at your numbers, okay, your business, or
Facebook, Instagram,
or we just
social
have to
media.
look at here's this formula, or it's all these things that are kind of like a plug and play, but that's not really actually the problem. It's a Band-Aid for something, I mean, PT first, whatever that is, like that might be, or sell retail things. But how long it's a very short little bump where the problem is still going to be there. The problem is you got into this business to help people in fitness, and now you're either sending them to a PT or you're just selling t-shirts and kill cliff.
PT as in physiotherapy? Yeah,
right,
yeah.
but the problem isn't actually getting solved. So if you want to have longevity in this as a business, then like nobody really is out there saying, okay, how do we provide some solutions to the actual thing you're selling?
Yeah. How do I make this thing better? Because that's the problem, right? The new iPhone came out. You know why I'm going to buy it? Because it's fucking awesome. It's better than this one. You know what I mean? It's just better than this one that I have. And that's the way it is. If it came out and it was the same thing as this, I'm not upgrading.
Right.
I think that's the core of the thing. You know what this is called? It's called an evolution of a product.
Yes.
And that's why CrossFit never got. It never evolved past Greg Glassman.
Because
was the first time
I
you talked
do
to
think
Effin.
that a lot of you will have this insight more than I. It's just my impression. Is I do believe that a lot of the insights or thought resources into CrossFit programming from HQ over the last few years did shift towards the competitive and the games and the regional side. How do we make it bigger? Like, I don't believe that there was much emphasis placed on
the system,
programming and the system itself. So we talk about things like, do they ever say, like, hey, the overhead squat, maybe not necessary. Snatch, what if that's a far away target?
Right.
What if we toss something overhead instead of snatching?
Yeah.
But can we just have that conversation? It's still a triple extension, by the way.
And so, but those are the things that I think that I see, and I think that's a place where someone can come in and say, okay, let's find a way to just do the thing that you do better.
Right.
And if you do get exponentially better, those other things, they're not going to just take care of themselves, but they're a lot easier for you to solve than just saying, my product still is fucking dysfunctional and kind of shitty as it was before, and everybody sees it. And that rate of churn that you have is exactly indicative of what's going on your gym floor, often from a communication standpoint, from a movement quality and injury standpoint. You're losing people. That rate is there. That's not because of you're not getting enough new people in, or it's not because you're not sending them enough welcome emails every 2 weeks.
Yeah, it's not because you're not making the
you're not
upfront
making
chunk
them
of
better.
money on the personal
But
training.
okay, so where did it start? To me, Greg Glassman started a constraint-based system. Why is a constraint-based? What does it work? And an objective-based system doesn't work. An objective-based system, there's no evolution. You just get to a target. A constraint-based system is a divergent mindset. It just opens up the door to go wherever. So Greg Glassman started that, and he started to evolve into something amazing. And then here comes the CrossFit Games, who basically became an objective-based and took all that potential for evolution and drove it toward an objective, and the evolution stopped.
And the time clock and the score thing.
Exactly.
It was, and truthfully, the movement standards, right? So the movement standards, the position being taught over attention, that exists
So what we need to
because
do,
you have to have
so
a
what
scoring
we need to do
marker.
is go back to before the CrossFit Games and continue the evolution of CrossFit from there.
Yeah.
We need to take the games out, go back to Greg Glassman's CrossFit, and evolve it. That's what
and
we
I
do.
think even when you look at was it CrossFit, was it HQ, was it the games, was it the affiliates, there is also the element of the other businesses in the market that came about. And I'll say, Wodify was one of the worst things that happened to a culture, to an affiliates culture. Because now you took the whiteboard, the dry erase. We did a workout. I did a workout the other
in front
night.
of everybody all the
time. For years now, we have people, hey, Jimmy, how'd it go? Smiley. he's happy. He got a great workout. He doesn't
No
know if it took
time,
him
no score.
13-11 or 11-13. Give me a smiley. But like, okay, whatever. But now you have
You have to enter it in.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. You have a ranking structure.
Yeah.
Right.
You have something.
That's
And so
What's
like,
crazy is when we went to do Wodify, but we were like, well, we don't want to get rid of the whiteboard. We don't want these monitors really showing people, like the membership system. Fine, you can't do Wodify without the TVs, and so a lot of
You have
people
to send them a photograph of it before they.
Yeah, so a lot of people went to like, what are we prioritizing here? And
Because often it's more or less, it's mostly just useful as a back end.
right.
By the way, can
Right.
we say that writing down the score of the workouts was actually a really bad idea?
Yeah.
Now that we know, by the way, we didn't know it at the time because he pushed people, but at the end, he just gave everybody anxiety and fucked everybody
yeah, I mean,
up.
and back
Right.
to, my mom recently talking about this, she's been doing this a long time. And she said, recently, and she doesn't know all the ins and outs of understand the bigger picture of what we're doing. She's like, I just feel so much better about going to the gym. And this is a 75-year-old woman, and you would think, well, she's not competitive. She got rhabdo from the Open one year.
Yeah.
Because I'm like, what are you doing? Because she pushed herself against another one of the senior competitors. 2 seniors.
Did she
so
win?
so no, she got
That's why she got
rhabdo.
rhabdo.
Don't get
Yeah, 'cause she
rhabdo
was
if you're
losing.
gonna lose.
Yeah, exactly.
So
I will
it's-
get rhabdo for a W, and that's
But
it.
it's like-
I'm not taking an L.
But it's like, so you might think well, those people aren't competitive, but the environment
Okay.
creates that. And now that there's, and I said to her,
if you
well,
put a carrot,
right,
people
what
will
is it
so-
now that makes it different? And she's like, well, yeah, because it's not just this one objective-based thing.
But that's something we have to stop dancing around it and point to it and say we have
say,
to address this.
Stop with the
and
shit.
yeah, and stop and be like, there is a disordered thinking that exists within the culture,
I agree.
and nobody is doing it maliciously. So
I agree
it's
with
okay.
that too.
That's exactly
Totally,
it.
totally.
Disarm.
Yes. Yeah,
no
yeah.
one's doing it maliciously, but
That's
it has
true.
happened. Did we know it back then? Hey,
No,
you know,
we did
and
not.
the old story of Coach Glassman talking about rowing, like a 150 or whatever, and then his dog comes up and he's all of a sudden rowing a 143. That was, however many years ago, but that's what happens. It's a human, the human terrain is very complex and rapidly changing. So we as affiliate owners, as coaches, as ambassadors of CrossFit, need to make sure that we do evolve and we do pay attention and we do say whoa, hey, this is happening. And it is
this
our
happened.
duty now
exactly.
to do something about it, not just be like, where's the patch kit? Because that's not going to happen.
Yeah. By the way, blaming for stuff we didn't know.
Well, exactly.
The whiteboard looked like a good idea.
Yeah, and we get into it too, like we talked earlier about, where does the accountability, responsibility? It doesn't matter.
Right, at this
right?
point,
We didn't know
who
at the
cares?
time.
Because if I am my affiliate owner, I don't care about any other affiliate. If I'm having trouble, right?
Right.
If I'm losing members or I have low numbers, having a hard time getting people in. Also, my my coaching just isn't making the difference that I hoped that it would. Where do I turn? What do I need
Blaming
to do?
people at that point is a waste of your
What,
time.
Whatever.
Yeah.
Plus, I don't care. I just want to fix it. But that's because, as you said, no one did it maliciously.
So-
it's a very important point to make.
So I think
we didn't know.
we've established a good base for those types of things.
Well, first, wait, because let me tell you what I see as a problem from the other side of the affiliate stuff, because they talk to me in a way that they might not. You know how it is in CrossFit. Sometimes you don't want to say it out loud, so you get ostracized. What they tell me, I have probably 50-60% of the people at seminars are owners, if not more, right? And I get at least half of them every single time coming to me and say, should I de-affiliate, right? And the two problems that they have is client retention because of injuries and stuff, and people not getting better, and coach retention. Those are the two main issues that we see. And I think coach retention is because, first of all, we can talk about this because you have the real numbers where no one is making money. Let's be honest. We need to talk about this. And the fact that the coaches are leaving because they're not getting any knowledge either. I used to train a very big hedge fund manager, and I asked him, how do you keep your people? Because by definition, your top guy, he makes millions of dollars, but he can make way more. And he told me, as long as they can learn from you, they'll stay with you. Are always stuck with me. And I think that's part of the problem of the coaches in gyms is if they can't learn anything from that gym, from that owner, from that culture, they'll leave.
Right.
Or they'll never give a shit, which is the same thing.
Yeah, which
But
is
your
going to drive
point,
client retention.
and your point is the answer that you give them is not to de-affiliate.
Oh, always.
Right.
So I'm the first one to defend CrossFit because people don't understand. And that's something I think the parasites and the scavengers that are going in CrossFit right now, they're missing a very important point. If CrossFit goes away, this will go to shit in 3 years. You guys like don't understand. The name CrossFit alone is keeping us together. Maybe not always in a functional way, but it doesn't matter. It's keeping us in a group and it's keeping the shit moving forward and growing. Up and down, all that stuff, maybe. Like everything that grows goes up and down anyway. If we take HQ away and we break that, what do you think is going to happen? Everything is going to, that what keeps us together, that binding energy is going to go away.
Yeah.
The whole thing is going to go to shit. What do you think is going to happen? So we had that in Jiu-Jitsu, where the Gracie family started to fight. It was Rorian sued his brother, Rickson Gracie, because Rickson was saying Gracie Jiu-Jitsu. Rorian sued him for using Gracie Jiu-Jitsu. What Rickson was the main defender of the family in fights. Anyway, whatever, it kills me every time. So what happened is we said Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. I was there at the time. Instead of Gracie Jiu-Jitsu, which means they could have owned the martial art, it was called Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. What do you think happened? People from Brazil left with blue belts, landed in LA with black belts, and opened Jiu-Jitsu school. So now at some point you have more Jiu-Jitsu school than Starbucks. Right. What do you think happened? But the quality went to shit. And what do you think happened? They all failed because it wasn't under one banner. And then from there, they got absorbed by MMA gyms. If we cannot put functional fitness under one banner, the thing will go to shit. And what do you think is going to happen? Equinox is going to take over. What's that big one? Lifetime is going to go and get all the L4s in the US and pay them and get them to teach CrossFit at Lifetime. To do CrossFit, we all going to have...
You're going to lose the community. You're going to lose...
You're going to lose the community and you're going to lose all of your fucking gyms. All those small owners that have 80 to 100 people, you're going to close shop. Without CrossFit, if you have 100 members, without CrossFit, you're fucked. Like, you understand how this works. Not that you need CrossFit to keep your 100 members now. I mean, if we take away CrossFit completely, the name, the binding energy of all those gyms together, you will go out of business because they will, Lifetime will come and take your clients away. This is like within 3 to 5 years maximum. That's why we need CrossFit in that sense. Now, that's why you need to pay the affiliation. You don't need it for what they give you. You give it for what happens if you don't. Without what Greg Glassman has created, we are fucked.
Yeah.
That's I've always been my view. That's why I tell everybody, no, stay affiliated because you're not staying, I don't care if you agree with HQ or not. You're not staying for them, you're staying for the community. And the community needs to be strengthened.
And I think it looks like not an easy way out, but like if I just change my name.
Yeah.
But is that really like,
you're still you. You're
right.
still,
you need to look at something other than. And
I think this is the truth. So when I talk about how maybe some of those problems of global perception, if you will, of CrossFit, what I would say a lot of times will fall on HQ. Yeah. However, the responsibility for the problems that's going on in your gym is yours, and my gym, they're mine. Right. Yeah. Like certainly at that moment, I can't say fucking HQ because this is mine. Like I am responsible.
Are you saying
assessing
HQ
all risks.
Did this for me when you hit 200 members?
Yeah,
because I haven't seen anyone
giving away.
I don't misunderstand. To me, HQ is not. His job is not to look in and make people in better. HQ's job is to keep Lifetime away. And is to keep that problem away. Right. That's what you pay so that the parasites and the scavengers don't come in. And by the way, on that, I would love to talk to HQ about keeping some of those of those fuckers out. But that's another problem.
So as a community, as a gym, instead of saying like, okay, I'm gonna just leave my name and do something, then change the name. Everybody, so the whole community, if we want it to evolve, it is on us. Yeah. It is on me, it is on every gym owner. Yeah. So we all, and then the problem is like, okay, well, a lot of people want to evolve. They might be distracted by the scavengers and those people and the parasites, but a lot of people don't know. They're trying to reach out to what's out there right now, but how we kind of got involved is looking at like, okay, we feel like there's a solution that isn't presented right now, and we would like to be people who help to evolve CrossFit, to help the affiliate owner that wants to evolve.
The solution is let's evolve CrossFit. So that's my problem, because I saw an article that said CrossFit but better.
Right.
That but right there worries me. No, not CrossFit but better. We do better CrossFit. We're fine. Let's just do better CrossFit. We don't have to do CrossFit but better, because then it's the ship at 180. We torch the house, we rebuild. We don't need a revolution. We just need to do the shit better.
Yeah.
All right. So, but again, like preventing the clients to leave, that's injury and progress. Preventing the coach to leave, that's money and knowledge. That's the way I look at it. All right. So that means we need, no matter what, we need education in business and training out there. Yeah. And so that's basically what we started to talk about, because I was like, education, I can do better on the baseline of strength and conditioning, but to give it out there. But it's like, all right, what about business? I did not have the people in place to do the business stuff, but now I have you. But our first conversation was, because you have the true numbers, is how many members on average, a successful affiliate after 5 years, how many members they have?
Yeah, and I think the reality is nobody likes to say their numbers or they overinflate them. I mean, there's people we've talked to who say like, yeah, we're at like 350, and they're not. You know, I think at this point, if you're around 200, I mean, I did a survey at one point relative to affiliate stuff, and some of the names of the gyms that came back and, you know, trusted me with sharing their numbers, I was like, oh my God, they only have that many people? Like, that wasn't, you know, just to hear successful longtime CrossFit gyms having 100 members is definitely a disconnect from what is kind of out there. And I think, you know, for us, we've been doing this for a long time. There was a time period where we were like, in 2010, there weren't very many other CrossFit gyms. Our numbers then looked very different. Now that there's 10 CrossFit gyms and people are going to geographically commit to what's closest. They're not going to drive 30 minutes to one that might be much better, or their friends are at this one, or whatever it is. There is more competition out there. So I think a lot of the gyms are struggling, and we know a lot of them personally, like they feel less than because they cannot even get to 100. I just can't get to 100. They've been doing it for 3 years, and they're still at like 80 to 90.
Well, if you want to open a gym where numbers is the top priority, don't open a CrossFit gym. Yeah. Open a model that's built on making revenue by people not showing up.
We need to say that 90 after 3 years, you're doing good.
Yeah.
Right.
Remember when
at the very least, you're amongst many other people.
Right,
That's
on course for what the numbers are.
No, but that's the problem. That's par.
Yeah.
Right. So I remember when you opened my.
So you're not a failure.
No,
just do it.
But that's what people think.
Yeah.
So then they just feel this constant
exactly.
scarcity of like, oh my God, I'm not good enough. How do I get more? How do I get more? How do I get more?
And that's what they chase is more and more and more.
Well, if you're at 90 and you think you're supposed to be at 200, you're going to feel like a failure. Yeah. But the problem is you're not supposed to be at 200 because no one else is.
And if
you are 3 times your size anyway.
And if you had 200 members, are you ready to deal with that problem?
You can't do 200. You don't have the structure.
It's like, what do you mean problem? It's like, well, where are you at right now? Yeah. If you have 7 people in class, how do you think that's going to go from 7 to 14 every class?
Right. And
are you ready for that?
How are those 7 going to enjoy, those first 7 going to enjoy this class when there's 20?
Because they're not unhappy that there's only 7 and not 20.
Yeah.
You know, I think the other thing is though a lot of people being in that position and being fearful, then it's like, well, I can't afford to do anything that loses any of those people. And so then they're just locked in because they're not doing well enough, and they certainly can't lose anyway. So we can't change anything, but it's not working because we're not getting people. And it's kind of, you know, it has to stop, and like there has to be like, okay, we're gonna kind of look at this from.
Let's talk solutions.
So what are we going to do?
Yeah, let's talk solution. So business and knowledge. Let's start with business because that's you guys.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So I think from looking at like how you're operating as a business, and we spent some time looking at that yesterday. You know, are you looking sort of externally or internally at what you're doing? Getting a sense of like, as a business, are you paying your coaches? You know, where are you at in a snapshot of the business side of things, and are you maybe looking in the wrong places?
Yeah.
Not the wrong places, but the places that aren't actually going to help your.
Let's talk about this because yesterday was kind of eye-opening for me because like Wim came and he has an entire thing with what is called Harrington.
I don't remember it.
You sent me the email. The message. I have it somewhere. Anyway,
I sent it to you so that I didn't have to learn.
Because he was a business consultant, just like huge corporation at the time, and it was fascinating because in their stuff they were showing like there's different types of business, but there's like 4 recipes. But if you're in one, you don't get to pick and choose like a little bit of each. Is you're in one group or the other, but you don't get to
in a lane and
get in a lane and do that. Yeah. What was fascinating is we saw the lane that CrossFit owners need to be in, and that is not the lane where they think they're in. Like all the people that are advising business to CrossFit owners right now are not in the lane where we saw there was an issue. They were in the lane of social media, getting you more
External,
people through the door, external, even
informing your
you,
market and
you can't
Comparing with other
handle
people.
30 new people, but you want them. I'm like, yeah, have fun with that. But so that was not the lane that they actually need to improve. And that to me is the core of the issue. Is that's because a lot of them, that's the parasite coming with something they got from another type, another world that does not fit with the need of the CrossFit gyms today.
Right. And I think the confusion, I think when people hear business, so some of the things in the lane that we're saying people need are education, developing your people. Yeah. And so people hear that and like, but that's not business, but it is business. You know,
that's how you get better.
And one of the things that I think Coach Glassman early on, and he's done this, he's given this little speech many times, I've heard him do it, is the chasing excellence. So, you know, like you have chasing money or chasing excellence. And when you chase excellence, it always drives you to money.
Right,
Chasing,
which is a Greg Glassman thing.
No, I'm just
also.
saying.
Just
McKinsey.
Okay.
What I'm saying is like that was that came from.
He gave that to the affiliates.
Right,
that was
just
something
not to be misinterpreted with training games athletes.
No.
Chasing
I'm
excellence
just
to
saying,
get better.
We're only saying it because that's the name of that book.
Right.
Yeah, okay, sorry.
Right. Just
But
for everyone out there, that was
came,
Greg
yeah,
Glassman.
But the idea is presenting that to affiliates. That was always the idea for how to become a good business was give a shit about how clean your bathrooms are. Every decision, I mean, I had no business background. When I went for my the guy that was helping me with accounting and said, I'm going to do this, he literally told me, do not do this. This is a bad idea. You will this is not good. And I'm like, I'm going to do it anyway. And a lot of that, and it might sound like, well, that's not very high-end business was just, I'm going to always look at how do I provide this value? Every decision that got made was like, okay, should I buy a this or not? Well, is that going to add value? Is that going to be kind of on the excellence side? Or am I just thinking of a numbers thing? And so while that might seem like that's not business, that lane, which is improving what you're doing by way of education, by way of developing your people, how do you think businesses that are succeeding over other businesses is because their knowledge is better, their depth is better, they have a better product.
Yeah.
So it's not just about sell retail items. I think people hear business and think,
revenue,
okay, it's just
marketing,
cash flow. You know.
But let's explain how we're going to do it. We're going to have a business assessment, right, on where you are, first of all, numbers, because at some point we're going to have to go through some accounting for them.
Yeah.
Numbers and all that stuff. But after that, we have that's a McKinsey. Right? Is a system where which lane do you need to be in, and more importantly, which lane do you think you're in? Because that gap is the problem, right? And once you have a lane, we're going to be okay, so you're going to get better in that lane.
Right.
And then you're going to come in and you're going to explain to them how, because that you have the experience with that, how to get better in that lane. And most of the time is, for example, the coaching. How often do you talk to your coaches? What happens when you have a coach that classes only one classes a week?
Right.
What happens when you don't pay that coach?
Right.
That class, that coach for that class, right? Because that happens too.
Or how do you meet in the middle between trying to balance your needs of money and your needs of development?
How do you develop the coach and how do you keep him? But again, when do you talk to him? Do you talk to him?
Right.
Do you guys train together? But that's where you're going to come in.
And I think the thing with each of those is, that initial piece is that individual's snapshot of where they're at. Everybody is going to be different. There are some common things that we know, coaching, education, all those things. Those are the common points that we know we can look towards those. But once you dig into them on each affiliate, there's a number of variations that are happening.
But you can also build constraints based off of that versus, and what's out there now is 5 classes a week minimum.
Right.
Every coach. And it's we have some phenomenal coaches that we would have to then fire.
Yeah.
Right. So that's
and it's what does that mean? That's not a that's not
objective based.
And so what is
they
the
just
constraint?
Shoving a system and they go quit the classes, just do private sessions.
No,
They're no, that's not CrossFit either. Yeah. There's a place for group classes too. You can't do that, and you can't. Some people are not capable of coaching certain things. They don't have the time, but there are some with people. It doesn't work like that, right? But that's why I love that McKinsey presentation he was doing. It was like you have a lane, and the lane is based on constraints.
Yeah.
Get better at those things, and that's what we're going to help you with. We show you the lane you belong in, the recipe you need to follow, and then you're going to get better at those things.
And that's a ongoing for what we want to do. There's so much there that our goal is to provide some of those constraints, provide ideas, sharing of ideas.
Right.
And that's really
talk
where
about
that's the value that's kind of lost now in the community of sharing what it initially we're putting things out, but then it's coming
communal
back with what's
intelligence.
working.
This is what the StrongFit community works so well because we have communal intelligence. It took us 2 years to build it, but now whenever there's a conversation, we have smart people jumping in, making their point, not my point, their point.
Right.
It's just if we right went up in the same place, and I think that's what we like now in the CrossFit community is the communal intelligence because that drives evolution forward more than anything else. If we have a group where the owner come, talk about their problem and how they fix it, that's how the shit gets done.
Well, I think building that community is a thing we're really trying to build the foundation on in this affiliate program as well, as obviously getting the individual affiliates to a better place, a more healthy standpoint from business and results is probably number one. But number two then is now once people are moving in that direction, is then we will have that community of people who are also headed their own direction and have made certain means of progress, and then we can share these like because sometimes somebody will say it's like, well, I keep hearing that I could bring in a PT and all this stuff, and you can have someone else say like, yeah, listen, I set up the physio thing and it just turned into this whole fucking mess of bullshit. Do what you want, but here's my experience. And then we have not just the 4 or 6 of us talking about our experiences, we're then going off of some solid principles, plus everybody else.
Because we'll have the guy who did good with the physio because that physio was great. Whereas the other one was an asshole.
But I think the thing with that too, the thing to note is the people that are joining this group are people that are putting their hand up saying, I want help, I need help.
I want to learn.
And that's what's missing outside of that is there's a lot of the like, I don't want to appear as though I have a problem. So we're all like letting down our guard to contribute, to all get better, to share, and to recognize and say that we need help. Because I think that's the piece that's just not happening outside of this.
But because you have to build a community for people to let their guard down. That's why we fight so hard with Tyler on the tone of the conversation. Because if I don't like your tone, I kick you out. Because then you're not contributing anything to the community. If you don't contribute,
about being right or arguing.
It's about being right, or it's a pissing contest. My dick is bigger than yours, and if your dick is bigger than mine, you have to go anyway. So
this is my community.
Exactly. So no, but that's so. But the key is that that is built with safeguards, and someone has to be daddy and go like, you don't get to talk like this. Mm-hmm. That's what also was lacking. And okay, so HQ might not want to be able to do that, but there's sometimes you need guard dogs.
Yeah.
And HQ was very good at defending CrossFit from the outside, from outsiders.
Right.
They've actually done that better than almost any other thing that I've seen them
the
do.
brand name,
They've done an exceptionally good job of keeping from not just fraud, but just from any number of channels. The average affiliate owner does not see the amount of angles that CrossFit could be getting fucked over if they were not spending just millions of dollars.
I mean, their legal team fighting things. I will say, like having been part of the conversation of an affiliate that was wronged or theft in terms of like using the name wrong or a number of things like going to battle to protect the name. Like that has happened.
People, and HQ should have done a better job at explaining that part, I think. But I think people, what they don't understand is that that's what HQ's job, at least in their eyes, is. We are the defenders of CrossFit. Yeah. We are the knight in front of the treasure, and we'll fuck up anybody that comes close.
Right.
But the treasure is gonna have to take care of itself.
Right. Yeah. And the affiliates, we saw this in we saw this in warfare, Iraq, Afghanistan, where you have now one guy who has a rival. Yeah. He goes to the Americans and says, "Hey,
fuck him up.
This rival is working with Taliban, okay, whatever." And gives bad intelligence. Yeah. And then, you don't have to be a student of warfare to know what happened to the rival.
Yeah, yeah.
And it's like, so at the local affiliate level, do you want CrossFit to come in and take out your company? Because
Yeah, we don't want that. Yeah,
right. So then, what do you expect?
But I think like they misunderstand that part. That is not what HQ is going to do.
No.
Like, and again, like I don't even care if it's right or wrong. That is not what HQ
But
does.
the other thing about HQ is a very obvious point. They're not running an affiliate.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
like,
How would they know? Yeah,
right.
anyway,
I mean,
right.
how are they going to talk about the affiliate now? I mean,
That's
sure,
true.
there was an affiliate way back, and Greg
true.
has started to talk about how things were maybe different then than how it's been interpreted. But the main thing is for us, like one of the reasons I feel like personally speaking, like compelled to have this opportunity
You
is
have one.
there's it's like such an incredible feeling to start seeing what I felt like maybe earlier on, like people are saying like, wow, I feel incredible, like all these things. I think that's what all the affiliate owners, when things are starting to go wrong, like that's that feeling that you want back, of feeling like, you know what I'm doing is what I set out to do. And that's the experience we've had with incorporating this stuff again, is like seeing that light in people's eyes and being like, this is making you go home to your family like a better person. I mean, that's what we always just say, oh, CrossFit makes you better. Well, make sure though that if that's what you're saying, that you're actually helping make that person better, not contributing to the problem.
I think that's what burns people out the most, coaches and owners, is when they say like people are not making progress. I think it's exactly that. Like it's not physically, it's mentally. Like they are not happier.
Right.
They're not better as people that they were a year ago. And if you're not contributing, if you're not part of the solution, you're part of the problem.
Exactly.
You're making them more anxious
Right.
with that fucking whiteboard and other stuff.
Yeah.
Instead of better people. I think this is where, from the talk that I had with the owners, that they miss the most is the first year of CrossFit. People are like, I'm a better person.
Right.
And that's what motivates them to do what. It's not money. It's never been money.
Right.
Most of the owners I talk to have their heart in the right place. They are deeply
Absolutely.
passionate about, but not change, not fitness, human beings.
Exactly.
Yeah.
They don't want the fittest.
But
they
you know,
want the happiest.
There used to be a thing that, we would say like, who you are in CrossFit is who you are in life. Well, if who you are now in CrossFit is an anxious person who's totally stressed out about the clock and your time, and I feel bad about myself, you know what? That is true. That becomes your identity. That's exactly who you're going to be. When you go home to your family, nobody cares. I mean, I think Kyla said it on a recent podcast, like, people don't walk down the street being like, what was your 5K row time? Like that, there has to be something more than that.
Damn, look at the Fran on that.
Yeah, exactly.
Like,
You can see that in their legs.
And that's why like we say that like nobody's gonna ask you when you come home what the time you wrote on the board, or when people 85 pounds and I did like,
Honey, I did lifted 460.
Right.
You go
But
like,
what we do see is
460
people
what?
do get fired up about that, and they share in that, especially earlier on, especially with the couples, with people like, oh, I did this, I did that, and there was that thing, and then all of a sudden, it goes dark and is like, you start questioning who you are as a human being because of some
you didn't PR.
performance metric or
you
this
went
or
down
that.
5
And,
pounds.
and we would say like, hey, how'd you do? And they're like, oh, but I scaled. I'm like, but I scaled.
Right, but
you should be celebrated right now. You are absolutely not like in the wrong because you made a decision based off of where you're at, what you need, what you're like kind of willing to do for a bigger
you had
picture.
a great workout.
right.
Yeah.
Right.
When did it ever become anything else but that?
Right. And as a coach and an affiliate owner, like it's your damn job to facilitate that.
Yes. Right.
Not
A great
how
workout,
much,
not
how
an
fit
RX.
are you getting
Right,
staring
right.
at a pair of rings for 10 minutes? Like think about it, and it's like, oh, okay, so just understanding some of that. So I think that is really an important thing to say, like coming in peace to try to bring us back to that, like,
And redefining the
that
job.
feeling.
Redefining the job of the coach. I think it has to be defined,
Not a
redefined.
class manager.
It's not a class manager, and your job is not to promote RX, is to promote a great workout.
Right.
Like there's certain things like this that have to be
and there
talked
needs to
about
be an
out
emphasis
loud.
on pride and learning, and that has to be like
Craftsmanship.
education of your coaches. And
Craftsmanship.
you see it. I'll
Craftsmanship,
see it in
craftsmanship.
any other industry I've been in. The ones that are good, that have a good business, educate their people. And the amount of resources that like my former boss spent educating technicians who had no fucking business. This was opportunity cost for him. This is a human who has the basic set of skills, and now I'm going to do everything I can to try to make that individual successful. And that was education, that was money, that was travel, that was all this stuff he's putting into these guys who, how many of them quit after 6-8 months because they weren't cut out for the job? Lots. But that in every industry, if you're not developing your people, the quality of what you put out is going to decline.
And they're going to go, to your point, if they are if they're developing themselves and you're not putting in the work, they're going to find somewhere else that's going to value that. And I think the other thing that we haven't said yet that we just want to make sure we communicate is this isn't a 1 month process.
Oh yes,
This is like
Right.
this is
3 weeks. It's gonna fuck.
guarantee
money guaranteed and double revenue.
So I think that understanding of like for many of us it took a while to it's just
2
taken a while to
years.
get here, and so now it's for us we're starting to hit like okay, like this is working, this is good, and we still have a ways to go. But we started having this conversation 2 years ago. So just being patient and like anybody, just like with fitness, we say like anybody that promises you like, oh, you're gonna get fit in like these 3 easy steps and it's gonna be like a 6-week whatever, you probably should question like, is this valid? And it's the same thing with this. If you want to redirect and reshift that culture and understanding of what you're creating, it's probably going to be a couple years. So but if you really care, you're going to be willing, and if you are in for the long haul, then 2 years is like
what
nothing.
is the same thing that you're going to tell a client who's going to come into your gym? You're going to say,
At least you should.
You're going to say, listen, yes, we'll get whatever we can get in 30, 60, 90 days without risking the thing that's the most important is that in 2 years, you be fitter,
still
happier,
there,
and healthier. And then 2 years from now, we are. And I think when we are approaching gyms about how to go forward, I think it's like you said, the coaches first need to understand and feel that feeling of helping someone and being good at the job, like having that impact. Because guess what? You're not going to be a successful professional in this space if you're not having a positive impact on your individuals. So where does the accountability lie when you're not successful in this space? Like we need to focus on getting better first, and not just getting better in the product that we put out, but that's built around the business structure as well. And that's some of the things that we will get into with the business assessment and all those things. But they all are tied together because in business, there is a certain aspect of how you do anything is how you'll do everything.
Right.
That reminds me of what Bill Gates says. Like you overestimate what you can do in 1 year, but you underestimate what you can do in 10 years. That's one of the smartest things I've ever heard. Like the shit you can do in 3 years' time. Like where StrongFit is now, where we started 3 years ago is ridiculous. But if I look at the first year, like I was like, no, we did not get even close to. But in 3 years, we ended up doing more than I thought we would.
Right.
That's the weirdest way we look at that. But for me, that's why that Bill Gates stuff was one of the smartest things I've heard. Like that really brings out the point. It's like it's not going to happen in 6 months.
And the truth is, when you're in the middle of it, it almost, this is a feeling most business owners when they have client troubles and money troubles, right? Execution problems and financial problems. Is time seems to move both simultaneously fast and slow.
But if they are happy,
it's just like what has happened. It's like it's dragging on. You're starving.
But to me, the solution to that is exactly what Karianne mentioned. It was like seeing that light in people's eye at your gym. That's what will make you wait 2 years for the money. I think the biggest problem is that light is gone in your gym, and that is draining your soul every time you walk.
And put money in that hole is not going to fix it.
No, but Facebook means more people that won't have that look in their eyes looking at you. You'll be more desperate and more unhappy.
Yeah, because what you don't need is to underserve more people.
Exactly. But that's mean, but that's true. Go fuck up more people. That's going to make you happier.
If I have a business, I'm underserving people one way or another. Either the people I have or the people I don't. I'm not getting my service out there if my business is not successful, or I'm just spending like an asshole. But for the most part, that is it does. As a business owner, accountability is one of the first things you have to take almost an unreasonable approach to, where it's like it just all kind of falls
social
on
media.
Correct.
Because that's what they're selling right now. Like have more social media. I'm like, you're taking example of people that were very successful at it in a very specific context. If you think that context applies to you, you don't understand how the shit works.
I would guess that if advertising or marketing comes up in the first 5 to 10 conversations that you're having with someone about your CrossFit business, fire them. Sorry. Because you didn't get in this situation.
By the way,
because
you
you're bad
can't
at
handle
advertising.
20 more people. You cannot handle 20 more people. Like to go past 90, it's like that critical mass moment. You have to be able to handle it. Like people always say, go on Joe Rogan.
Ironic.
I can't handle Joe Rogan right now.
People, you're at that.
I don't want to answer those
You're
emails.
at that point. You're at that set point for a reason. So like you're like, oh, I got so close, but then we went back. It's like, well, right, because that's about what you can handle right now. That's
Usually,
like that's
homeostasis,
why that's
he finds-
happening. It's
There's
not just-
homeostasis in business. He finds, like if we have Joe Rogan today, we would have to answer 1,000 emails. Like we can't do that. It's 4 of us, 5 of us.
Yeah.
We can't do it. Like I'm not doing it. He's not doing it.
I get 3 a day. They piss me off.
Exactly.
All the time.
So
No fucking way.
like right now,
Right,
I'm
you
like.
have to be ready for that and then be able to serve those people.
But funny thing, that was part of that business talk yesterday. Is like, do you have the structure for it? And if you truly look at, you want 20 people, can you handle it? Like if you truly look at the structure necessary for 20 people, look at it and you'll go. In your mind, you go like, we'll be fine. No, you won't.
Right.
No, you won't. It's going to become
affiliates
worse.
too. A lot, maybe not most, but I would say a ton of affiliates are being targeted because the pain point of financial that is the lowest hanging fruit there possibly could be, and so when you target financial scarcity, you're playing with people in a way that you know what you're doing too.
Well, and the thing is this, is that your financial problems are not the problem. They're a symptom. Right? That is it. They are a symptom of everything else that you have done and that the market, within the market that you're in. So you need to adapt better for yourself and in the space that you're in. And I think that piece is the piece that I think people need to understand.
Yeah, and I think there are certainly things you can do, like with the
quick wins. There are some, but
and there are things that we will suggest to people that are revenue, that are ways to add revenue.
Stop
We're not
wasting money.
Right, but it's all going in the right direction.
Yes.
So those are things that are adding value and adding revenue.
But in a direction, not an objective, but in one direction, instead of trying to pick and choose, I'm going to do social media, I'm going to do this, and I'm going to do that, and then you go nowhere because all that stuff is completely disjointed, and there's not a fucking direction to what you're doing.
And I think the other thing to understand is we're not saying that. I mean, we maybe have lost a handful of folks. I mean, the other thing is, like, of course, there's always going to be that like comparison or, well, what other people are doing. But what's so funny is I think about like back when everybody started CrossFit, you were doing something different then as well. Like this isn't a new concept to be exploring, to be doing things that are a little bit against the grain or like, okay, that's different. That doesn't have to be a negative. Yeah. So, but you do have to have and that's the long haul stretch too. If you're just looking at, well, what if I lose 5 and I gain 5 this next month because of what I'm doing? That's also not a measure.
But that's also like who do you want to be as an affiliate?
Right.
And how do you want to operate and how do you want that experience to be? And frankly, the people that we have lost recently, we should have lost them.
They're not yours.
They're great people.
They're not looking for what we're doing.
They're not your people.
Like if you go back to if you go to a restaurant and it's the best burger place there and you order a slice of pizza, they're going to look at you like, what are you talking about?
Yeah.
And it's the same thing with some people. Like if who you want to be as an affiliate is this set of constraints, and somebody coming in wants a different objective,
and they shouldn't be here.
Then they're not there.
And it's like you said, if you lose 5 clients one month and you gain 5 that same month, 5 different ones that same month, well, normally you're not losing. Hopefully, you're not losing clients that are your people and that align with what you are doing.
The 5 you gain aren't going to be a problem for you that are constantly.
But imagine you lose 5 of the assholes that drive you crazy every day. Oh, I'll take that any month. Even if you keep me at the same number, if I can just lose the bad ones. Like Jack Welch used to say, fire the bottom 10%, promote the top 10. Right. So imagine if those 5 clients you lost are the assholes. You know the ones I'm talking about. When you can't sleep the night before.
My favorite thought exercise for gym owners anyways, I said, I want you to take whatever numbers you have right now. Take whatever 10% of that is. It's 10 people. Take 10 of your most difficult, pain in the ass, disrespectful, unappreciative clients, and imagine that they were not in your gym anymore. Like these people, and I'm like, really think through what difference that makes in your day. And some of those people are like, man, that'd be great. I'm like, well, whose fucking gym is this? Why are you allowing this? And the cancer that is in your body all day.
Well, the problem too is if you have people, and not to say that they're even the asshole people, they're just now the people that aren't wanting to go in that same direction. I can tell you from experience, every class you coach, say it's a class of 10 people, 9 of them are like nodding and listening, but that one person is the one that's like, shut the fuck up. Like, what are you talking about? I just want to do this and this and this. all your attention is about like trying to overcome that person, and it's not going to happen. So
And
now
by the way,
the
now
9
you
people,
suck with the other 9. Yeah.
right, is like they want it. So let that person, let them go for them and for you, for you to make progress.
And for
often-
by the way, and for the other 9.
Right.
For
right,
the
so
other
that's
9
what
who
you're
earn and deserve your time.
Yeah.
Yes.
I had that with bad clients where my energy was spent on them. I was so tired that the next client suffered where they earn my time and energy, whereas that one didn't, and yet this is where my energy went. I was like, that's a fucked up situation.
And that's important. The transaction isn't just money, and that's why as coaches we don't just give out what we get in return in money.
No, we
it's
don't.
just not the way it works. And also that's kind of the way for them too. Is they don't just get full reign to you and everything you have just because they pay you.
Yeah.
You know, like I'm going to teach. You have to learn. If you are not going to learn, I'm kind of not going to try to teach that.
We had a member who habitually came in 15 to 20 minutes late. 9 a.m.
like 20 minutes
Like
late.
20 minutes late, like depending upon the work. Anyway, and it's like, look, this can't happen. This can't happen. So finally, went up and spoke to her and was like, hey, like we've been very accommodating, but we have to get here on time.
Yeah.
There's later classes.
And it's like, well, my cleaning lady doesn't come on Tuesdays until this time, so that means I can't come. And I said, well, then that means you can't come. And like that is a really hard.
And she left, and she's never been back. So
Yeah,
it's
and
fine.
she left, and whatever the story is the story. But like, yeah, sorry, it's not about you either, and it's not about us. It's about everybody else in class too.
Right.
Exactly.
That is the duty. We owe it to our people we are serving, and if you're not viewing it as service, it's a problem.
doing
as
something.
well.
Well, but the rationale as well, and that's the problem with the mentality is one of her things rationally was like, well, I pay to come here. And my thing was, but if you go to a movie theater and you pay for that movie, we all know, we understand as a culture, you don't have the right to talk on the phone in there because all these other people also paid. So if that's a cultural clash with a member in your gym, like anything like that, then it's not.
You don't
it's
need
just
to
not a
come to
fit.
an understanding of each other. At that
Plus,
point.
honestly, to me, I look at it like the StrongFit community, which is, it's mine.
Yeah.
I set the rules. Sorry.
Right. Somebody has to.
Someone has to be daddy. And you know what? You're not going to do that.
I told Bill this yesterday. I think it was yesterday when we were walking. I told him a story I had about one family that between their basic family and their extended family were responsible for 20 plus of my clients. Almost a fifth or a sixth of my total amount of clients. And that was just one family, just 2 people who came in, and then their brothers, sisters, uncles, their kids. But that all was is one family, and they're the best.
Yeah.
They're best to coach. They just had, they trusted me. They trusted my partner. They trusted what they do, what we did, everything, and fully. And I told Bill, when I got to thinking about letting some of the bad clients go and all of these things, it's like, man, what if all I had to do was whatever it took that got me that one person to those families. What if I just had to be good enough to catch that 5 times? And now I'm not taking in anyone I don't want. And I would get jacked up to coach a class that was chock full of those people.
Yeah,
It was a
right.
fucking
There's a
blast.
huge
You're so
difference.
happy.
Yeah.
And so what if that's what my gym was? Because it's my gym.
Right.
Why in the world is my gym require me to deal with 20 people that I love, 80 people that are pretty cool, and 20 people that I'd just as soon not be in there?
By the way,
you
it's
have to
not
have
just
that.
the clients that are not happy. No, it's the coaches and owners as well.
Right,
Because
because they
I
don't
hear
wanna
that
coach
one.
them. Yeah.
Yes, I hear that one all
Yeah.
the time. We got into that culture of they pay, therefore. I'm like, therefore what? I had that even on the mentoring program with some people, like I'm paying. And I'm like, and remember Bain, and that gives you power over me.
I think
I think that
I mean,
whole,
like-
if you're in a where you're not enjoying coaching, you're constantly wondering, is what I'm doing working? Like the point is, like something has to change, and and that's really.
But
what
you need to
we're-
be happy.
And it's
just
a more-
like your clients, you need to have that sparkle in your eyes. By the way, your clients can tell if you don't have the light in your eyes.
Yeah.
If you look like this is the last place on earth where you want to be, you're going to lose clients anyway.
Right.
And
I
it's
can tell you that.
It's a more advanced transaction than most of what people are used to. So your average client is not going. They do think I pay for access to the pool So when the pool's open, I go in.
Yeah.
You know, I pay to get a cheeseburger. You give me the damn cheeseburger. But the coaching and then the way we want to do it in CrossFit with community and
Much
all
more
that stuff.
complicated.
What you are giving them is a piece of yourself.
Yeah.
Yep.
And all you ask in return is that they not fucking ignore it or disrespect it or whatever.
That's
Seems
another
like
podcast, by the way.
But you know what I mean? And so it is more in depth than that. But like Julian said, very often their side of it is, well, I paid you. I can just do what I want. It's like, you can, just not here.
Yeah, yeah.
And it has to be.
And I won't take your money for that.
Because you'll burn out. You'll burn out so fast.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we're at about the point of needing concluding points.
Will help.
Will help. So that's it. I mean, I don't want to rush a wrap up or anything like that.
No. But we want to help. There's a business side of it, and I like the business stuff from yesterday because I like that. Look, you have. This is where I like the fact there was like 4 recipes, and one of them was like that's obviously where they need to be. There's 5 constraints, and that's how we're gonna make you better. That idea of picking and choosing like that never sounded right to me, like because that's how training is done and everything. I like that a lot. So that's what we want to offer. But then after that, there's a human side, and the reason we never did this before is because we didn't have those 2 before. And so now that we do, I feel we can help, which is how StrongFit has always been. If I feel I can help, then we're doing it. Yeah. How? We're going to figure it out as we do it.
But the first step is definitely people signing up to be part of it.
Of the affiliation that is not an affiliation.
Yeah.
Right.
I swear, guys, I'll have a name real quick. But who are we emailing first? Who's our first email point?
Email Kyla@strongfit.com.
And that is spelled Kayla@strongfit.com.
Whatever. Kayla. So Kyla, exactly, at strongfit.com. And then we most likely at first will start with maximum of 10, so do it fast. Because we want to see, again, it's a set of constraints. There will be an evolution to it, and that's the point. Yeah. So we will evolve as we go.
Yeah. And it's a guided. It'll be a combination of sort of one-to-one, sort of small group, sort of communal intelligence. There's structure with this.
We're getting better at structure. I mean, I'm not getting better at structure, but
Julian's
StrongFit is getting better at StrongFit at structure.
Here's what happens: Julian,
Outside
no structure.
Yeah.
Julian then hires Tyler with somehow less structure. And it's like, why isn't things getting more structured? And I'm like, I thought that was your job.
But then you have the women who have structure.
No, but by the way, so it was funny because there was 4 recipes. This was what the parasites are trying to sell to CrossFit gyms.
Right.
There was the CrossFit gyms, and then there was at Force One, and I'm looking, going like, oh shit, that's me. And one of them was talent acquisition. I was like, yeah, now we're talking. There it is. Yeah. Pretty much. That's been this year. I was like, I need people that can do what I can't. Yeah.
But like doing the work too from the affiliate level, like you should be fired up to do some of the work and implement it.
By the way, if you don't do the work, either we don't take you in.
All answers.
By the way, it's not because you apply that you're in. We're gonna talk and we see if you're a good fit. And if you don't do the work, you're fired.
Well, and that's as important. So we talk constraints, right? One of the things we would like almost every affiliate in the world to have at some point is a group, their own community that consists of people that are their people. Right? That want to be there, that fit your gym, and it won't always be perfect, but we want that closer. We here are only going to do that.
Yes, exactly.
Meaning,
if you're not one
like,
of
I'm
us,
sorry, but like you can either come in and you can fully commit to the constraints with which we'll give you within this program, or you can
just sounded like Jason
Bourne.
Bourne.
Or you
can
can
Jason Bourne. Oh, you so sounded like that. Yeah.
But
Or you can that's very true.
Yeah.
But if you're not, that's fine.
It's fine.
But you just won't be with us.
Yeah, and it's no hard feelings either. But find out if you're ready to just commit and jump in, or at least you want more information before that point. Kayla@strongfit.com.
Are you committing to this program? Remember? In the Jason Bourne, like the third one. Oh, it was so good.
Yeah. There's too many Jason Bourne movies now. There's the Jason Bourne movie that doesn't even have
like
Jason Bourne in it.
Right.
What the fuck? It's not even like his cousin or anything. It's just
I like that one. I just didn't like the last Jason Bourne. Like they went too far. Like the first 2, 3 were really good.
My favorite thing about living in Europe now is the ambulances and police sirens.
Oh, he heard it last night. He goes, listen. I'm like, what is it? The ice cream truck? He goes, no. It's the police.
It's
and I'm
fucking
like,
Jason Bourne.
run across the rooftops.
By the way, do you know that it has nothing to do with the book?
I can't imagine.
It has nothing. No. But the book is about chasing that very famous terrorist from the 80s. I can't remember. 80s, 90s. The Jackal. It was about chasing a jackal. It has nothing to do with the Jason Bourne movie. I was like, oh shit, because I read the book going, yeah. That's not the same. I saw that movie, but it wasn't called Jason Bourne.
Right.
Remember? Yeah. The movie? Yeah.
Was it
I can't remember the name of the actor, but that was actually pretty good.
Wasn't Bruce Willis the
Jackal? Well, that was the Jackal, but I don't think that was the Jackal. The guy.
It's Donald Sutherland is the guy training the guy who's after the Jackal. Because he's like South American, the Jackal in that movie or whatever. I remember, that movie was good. I just can't remember the name of the actor.
It was Predator. I knew it.
Anyway. Yeah.
So, well, that's got us wrapped up today. So you guys are at CrossFit Motown?
Yeah, so CF Motown. Or
on
CrossFit
Instagram.
Morristown.
CrossFit Morristown is the affiliate.
Yeah.
Look them up, and then we are at, you're used to it.
We're at, I don't know.
Here we go.
I got to give some things out.
Yes.
Like, so julianscorner.com, strongfit.com, strongfitequipment.com, strongfit1 on Instagram, Tyler Effin Stone on Instagram.
UK32.
UK32, Rare Barracuda, and support the podcast at podcast.strongfit.com.
There you go.
That's got it. All right, thanks. We'll see you guys next week or fucking tomorrow.
Yeah, exactly. Tomorrow.